Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Dawn.
Good morning.
I better wake up. Ah,
I
there we
know.
go.
Are we the only one? Yeah, we're the only ones here yet.
Yes.
Well,
What a
this is
pleasant surprise.
ah,
Dawn has joined us. Oh,
yes. It's my first time, so thank you for letting me join the group. You're frozen. Oh no. Maybe you're resetting. I'll pause. Ah,
Um,
you're back.
I accidentally turned off the phone, the other
Oh.
phone. So I grabbed my other phone and joined.
Awesome.
Oh, so how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I feel good today. Um, Happy to have a day off from work.
Well,
Ah,
yes. Mm,
how about
yes.
you? You doing good?
Yes, good. Happy to be alive.
Yeah, nice.
Mm, hmm. And and the topic is love. Love will keep us together. All you need is love.
All you need is love.
Yes.
Yes, we've been saying this mantra for many years. I recall hearing it over and over and over, but no one in my community, in my environment, really understood what that meant. There were so many religious people,
Mm,
but I had to learn very quickly that religion is not the way. It is actually the distraction and a control system. And so love is found inside when you're loving yourself, because then it allows you to have some left over to give to others. So wow, I grew up backwards, not loving myself because that's selfish. How dare you love yourself? So,
oh, that's right. Yes. Why is that?
I
Hmm.
know what happened in the mindset at some point in our history where the people, because I feel like these systems were developed for a reason. A lot of times it's a response to something else. So, wow, this what they did caused this catastrophe. We're going to do the opposite kind of a reaction. So, we're not going to be selfish and we're not going to care about just ourselves. Well, I think at some point something like that happened and it became out of control. The mind is crazy.
The what would the catastrophe be? Like or a reaction to something, and they took it to the extreme. Do you
I think
think?
so. I think
And
so, because that seems to be the pattern that I read, the cycle that keeps happening, is that we try to fix something and we go overboard. And then the correction comes and it goes overboard. It's a cycle that keeps going back and forth overboard. And then what happens is it becomes a control. At first it's, we want freedom. And then it quickly becomes, we're going to create these rules, and the rules become a control system. Under
oh,
the design, under the idea of helping people and correcting a problem. Because you see, my correction may not be the same as your correction. So
oh, yes. And mm, and I've been studying um, Buddhism, and uh, I wish I could practice it better. But mm, also in Buddhism, there is that uh, our problem lies in our selfishness.
ah,
But they call it self grasping, ignorance. And ignorance, not as if you don't know anything, but ignorance is that you don't know who you are, kind of ignorance, and or you don't know uh, how things really are, or you don't know yourself the way you really are, and that causes self grasping or egoism or selfishness.
mm,
And then you
yes,
combat that by thinking of others, or having the motivation for everything that you do is by I will do this for the benefit of others.
yes,
And so if you take time to think about yourself, you feel guilty or something.
yes,
Something like that, I suspect. Mm.
yes. It's embedded in our cultures, many of our cultures.
Welcome, Dominic. We have a friend, Dominic, in Canada.
Good morning.
Good morning, Don. Hi, Jaro.
Hi.
Oh, Dom and Don.
DD, DDJ.
DDJ. I'm J Ro Jam Yang Powell.
And yes, Don, that resonates with me when you said it is engraved in our cultures.
Yeah.
How was your week? Week. The WEAK. How was your week? How was your week? Strong. Did you have a strong week or a weak week?
I had a strong week. I had a very strong week this week. How about you guys?
Oh, oh, yeah, it was all right.
So what does it mean, Jaro, when you say, it was all right? Was there any highs or lows in your week, guys? Or Jaro, even Don? Become aware of anything new, or kind of, well, a lot of things, it's repetitive. We do a lot of repeat things, which is, I guess it's a bonus for us as a race.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ah,
Well,
what I
mine,
did this week,
go ahead, Gyro.
anything special that I did this week. I can't remember anymore. It was like any other week. And I feel weak. I'm getting weaker and weaker. I'm not eating as well as I should. I'm, I don't have the normal schedule of wake up and go eat breakfast. I, I wake up and go and get going and get distracted and then suddenly it's noon and my breakfast is around lunchtime. So but then break fast is you break your fast.
Mm.
So even if I eat my first meal around noon or afternoon, it's still a break fast because I've broken my fast. But then I get hungry late at night, so I eat a, a big meal late at night, and then I get home and I drop dead into the bed.
Mm-hmm.
My belly is getting bigger and bigger. So I have to do some exercise, watch what I eat. Uh, it's complicated.
Well, I think we make it complicated. I don't think it has to be complicated, but humans, we seem to need a little complexity, a little difficulty to sometimes get us going, is what I feel like I've come to understand at this point. But for me, this week was a strong week because my work, I'm an accountant and tax preparer. So you can imagine it's
Mm.
tax season. And I'm not a public tax preparer, thank God. So I don't have people walking in my door. I only work for a certain group of customers, a certain group of clients, and businesses. I'm a small business accountant. So if they're busy enough. So I do their businesses and the personal, and then anybody that's referred. So, we humans, it's almost, you can predict what's happening is, when am I going to get my W-2? And, oh, I want to get my money back. And, and then they want to spend, they want to shop. And, it's just the same old, the mentality that I recall from when I was a child, what happened with my parents, where they were eager to get this tax refund. And then throughout the rest of the year, it was, we were poor and there was poor planning. And it's just a sad thing to witness. So even though I had a great week because I was able to get a lot done, I had a lot of focus, a lot of strength in my work. Also, personally, I feel a little sadness because I'm witnessing this cycle occur in the people, and I'm affected by that. The energy of that it affects me. I'm sensitive, and then additionally, I have been over the past couple of years waking up from belief systems, and I'm much faster at recognizing them. But for a couple of months, a few months, I would say, I was investigating Eckankar. I don't know if you've heard of that. I was
Oh,
new to my Eckankar. And also, I realized that Scientology is here in Florida. I mean, I know Scientology. I remember hearing it years and years. I'm 50 years old, by the way, so I'm pretty old. I've been around a little bit. And so I remember from back in the day, but I didn't realize it was here in Florida. So I became aware that there are several meetup groups that are being set up by the Scientologists. And if you read, once you get in there and you read the description of it, you think, oh, that's what I'm interested in that. And when you get to the very bottom, the last line tells you that this is set up by Dianetics and Scientology. And but what they're doing is they are operating as, how are you in relationships? Wouldn't you like to have a better communication in your relationships? There's a meetup group for that. So I went to and got involved in a couple of these, and I realized how subtle the belief systems start. It's always to fix a problem. And then once you get into it, you find out there's all these strange rules. You don't get a lot of answers. So I just it was on Thursday that I attended my last Eckankar meeting. Although I did get some good messages from that, I saw very clearly that there was this control system that I did not want to be a part of.
Oh, that's good.
Well done, Don. Sorry, Jaro.
Go ahead, Dom.
It's always nice to hear a fellow being becoming aware of how some of the clubs work anyway. Their role, whether or not people are aware of it as you get higher, is to anchor this realm. We forget we're human beings. We're the being experiencing the human aspect. And I would go even further, Don, to say it's not just about belief systems. It's about, well, it's a version of dogmas, religion, science, state. It's all dogmas. We get to experience them. And once you become aware of them, you realize, do I want to participate it asleep or awake?
Right.
You know, because even when I hear, you know, we're enslaved in a lot of ways. Like you working in an industry where what is going to happen when they go digital? Do they actually need any more sort of accountants to monitor their digital currency? You know, so again, that's all about anchoring. Unfortunately, humans get caught up in this me, where no, the world's beyond just the human race. You know, there's so many parts of the world that are so beautiful, and we're never even going to tap into it. You know, we're not going to destroy the rivers, the lakes, and all that. We might destroy where we pee in, but that's as far as we'll go. But a lot of these club members, you know, I never say when I hear people say they sell out, I said, no, they buy in. Unaware, unfortunately, unaware. Like even because you're a dark-skinned woman, where I kind of cringe when I hear my friends talk about Black Lives Matter. I said, well, wait a second here. There's not a human being that's black, let alone white. Where did we get these dogmas? You're dark-skinned and you're light-skinned. I'm European, so I would be, well, even that's a dogma too. I'm European. Where did I get that ideal from? You know, we forget our programs are so instilled, where people will say, well, then they quickly do the finger pointing. Well, it must be Lucifer. I said, okay, so let's play that game. Don't we have to take accountability for our own actions? And what happens if we find out that this realm, whatever we want to call it, I call it a realm, belongs to certain kinds of beings? I said, well, then you should respect it. And we forgot how to respect each other's, you know, like I've heard my buddies talk about, I don't agree with certain, and then they use names like elites. I said, okay, so who are we going to pick on today? Bill Gates? Soros? Okay. So last time I remember, most of us don't grow our own foods and build our own shelters. So we really can't be in a position to complain. We can if we want to, just for exercise. but unfortunately, and it is fortunately if you become aware, you know, like I've always strived, and I told my buddies, belief system is a good step. Knowledge is something a little bit beyond belief system, but then there's wisdom and understanding. How do we have discernment while we're here? You know, most people like to judge. That's kind of more the ego's thing. But then there's discernment. How do I know? I don't know if you've ever done this experiment, Donna, when you look at everything around you and you say, okay, when I say the word, you had a beautiful creature beside you, a dog. Where do I see the word I said? Where do I have the thought? Doesn't exist in what we call the material world, where some people would actually, in the old language, used to call the world evil world, material world. That's all it means. But unfortunately, we get caught up in the programs, and it's not to blame our parents because they're in the program too. You know, we're using that term, right? So, you know, and of course, some people, and like you said too, we have that poor mentality. Now, are we talking poor financially? Because I tell my buddies all the time, I said, you're not being taxed for your product or service. You're being taxed on the currency called fiat currency. Until you realize that, then when people say, I don't want to pay taxes, I said, don't you have to give some of it back? It's an honor that we get to have a privilege to use that piece of paper. Now, what you can buy with it, what money really buys is our convenience. Not too many of us would be able to take our craft and say, I'm going to the grocery store, and Donna's going to say, well, I'll do your taxes. No, we already have that. So what are you going to give in exchange? Some apples and oranges? I said, yes. Well, bartering doesn't exist anymore. No, bartering does exist with the elites. They actually think money's dirty. That's why they have that term, naive. Their naivety is our bliss. And until people become at least aware, forget about belief system, because you just went into that Scientology and all that kind of stuff. And they even value that as you get higher. I think some people have talked about it, whether or not it's what's named Tom Cruise and all that, where they start talking about what we call bacteria are live beings within ourselves. Because the ego doesn't understand who taught it to breathe. When Gyro goes to sleep, or I go to sleep, or you go to sleep, Donna, who's running the body when we're asleep or when we're awake? The program doesn't ask those kind of questions. It'd be like me and you asking Siri a question to think about itself.
Mm.
And until we become aware of that kind of stuff, there's only the few that actually become aware of it. And the ones that are trying to help humanity are probably going to struggle. And the ones that are trying to take advantage of them, even if they wanted to make them aware, Scientology, Jehovah Witness, Seventh-day Adventists, Muslims, Buddhism, and all that kind of stuff, those are all teachings to keep you here.
I heard something interesting.
Go ahead, Jar, please.
Like yesterday, I was listening. I get Audible and have accumulated a huge library of audio books, and so I go on my phone and go ring, 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 and close my eyes and go, oh, I haven't heard that one in a while. So I played a book that's about theosophy, and it was written like a brief introduction to theosophy by an important founder of the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky, a Russian that came to New York, and she and some other guys that knew a lot about I guess world religions. They started it in the late 1800s, and so she wrote a brief book on it, like an introduction, and there was there it was saying like theosophy existed even before great thinkers, like or tracing it back farther back to the Greeks and beyond, and sounding like theosophy is kind of like the root, or trying to figure out if there is a root to all religions and things like that. So they pick up things from the Greeks, from the Egyptians, from India, from there, and try to maybe bring them together and look at the mythologies and interpret them and saying, oh, that mythology and this mythology, they seem different, but there's an essence to them all, and so kind of bring it together. And there's one saying that I picked up, that's good to know, something like what you were saying, Dominic, that so maybe I forgot how it was said, but it's kind of like the thinker. So the thinker, we grab an object and look at it, and we can think about it, but then can the thinker grab the thinker and think about the thinker? Something like that.
Jaro, at that point, you're just the observer. A lot of these
Yes,
members.
maybe that was the word that was used. The observer. Can the observer really observe the observer?
Yes, you can. You can. The whole concept of know thyself is a step. So now this is how people can realize with each other when the ego's talking. There's love thyself, and then there's self-loving. Self-loving is actually the ego. Self-awareness opposed to awareness of the self. Once again, once the self is in its first place, that's the ego. That's the ongoing program. So now even HB and Bailey and all these characters, they talk about chit-chatting with ascended masters. Well, when you have an ascended master, what do you need? You need a descended slave. So now what happens is they're here to anchor this realm. So when people say, I go to the light, I said, yes.
The word anchor, I've heard that one twice in talk.
Yeah, anchor. Well, okay, Jaro.
You define word anchor?
Anchor. Okay, think about a boat. And if it wants to stay in one stationary spot, you need to anchor it. So now it's not the humans that are getting anchor. It's the
Nail it
realm.
down.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, like
I-
anchor is like nailing something down.
No, no, no. It's a weight. An anchor would be something, an example. Do
Oh,
you,
wait,
okay,
yeah.
I'll explain a little bit, Jaro, and then you can remember I've told you before, what you do with other human beings, you hear each other. The listening's always done from within. This is
Mhm.
why the concept of meditation exists. It means to listen.
I'm
So
just
now,
trying to clarify for myself
okay,
so I can get synchronized with your thought process.
okay. So I'll give you an example. So maybe a visual could help. So one person would think, okay, do I anchor the mother elephant or do I anchor her child? You anchor the child, the mother will stay. So with most people, they're unaware when you're using things after thoughts, which is written work and oral work. Both of them are afterthoughts. So you're anchoring yourself here. So a person, more times than not, most people aren't going to question all the different languages we have. Somebody will say, well, Dominic, I don't speak Sanskrit or Greek. I say, well, then you're not aware of all the other languages, numbers and colors that you use all the time. So now, when they're here to anchor this realm, this is why you hear the concept, go to the light. Well, we're the essence to light. We're in the darkness. This is why we have many symbologies such as yin and yang, feminine and masculine, black and white. Black encompasses all colors. 0 encompasses all numbers. But those are just gauges. We don't see time. We see things like clocks, watches, the sun and the moon. Those are signs. So now, when a person, again, does not become aware, awareness is just a step. Awareness that, oh, I'm living in a realm that's very objective. So we use words like things. If you wanted to prove whether or not the hand is what it is, then you have to ask yourself, why can I say it in 4 or 5 different languages, the same object? So it's not that. And then people forget you're experiencing thoughts. You're not thoughts. You're not the vessel. Because if you are the vessel, you should be able to explain to the self, the ego. So who's running the liquids when I'm talking to Don and I'm hearing Jaro? The ego's
that
not that.
reminds me
Go ahead,
of
Keisha.
what you talk about when you show on a piece of paper the word tree, or you point back at your cactus
Mhm.
plant or whatever and behind you.
Yeah,
or-
we're associating. At that point, we're
and
associating.
you use a word to point to an actual object.
Mhm.
And so I think what you're getting at is that we we're throwing words at each other and putting sentences together with them, and there's objects and verbs, and so the object, when it gets in our head, we confuse or mistake the actual object with the word of that object. So we think they're the same in a way that we could say that they are, but then when we believe that, then maybe we put too much importance in the word and not in the meaning. I don't know.
If you were listening, Jaro, from within, you'd realize you're entertaining the senses when you're using words because there's sounds and frequencies within each word, each letter. So what happens is when that happens, we also have liquids in our body called blood and water, and they both store memory. So that's why when I say the word fan, and then Donna looks behind her, she sees the ceiling of the fan, she's associating to it, but the word's not there. It's nowhere. So this is why we have, you hear in the scripture, they talk about the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I'll change the word, the awareness of spiritual and material. We don't see words. We don't even see emotions. We express them. We're not at that point where science or somebody that calls them a scientist will say, okay, well, and I would tell myself, okay, so where do you see the association or the collaboration of different bacteria, or not even bacteria, my apologies, guys. It would be something what we call molecules to do an expression called anger or joy or sadness. Most people just try to resist one, but they're really attached to another. I want to be happy all the time. I said, you can't be happy all the time. Be in the moment. And in that moment, it might be correct to say, I'm angry, or I'm sad, or I'm happy. Those are just moments. And if you, as the observer, you can observe those things before they even occur in the physical. This is why we have many words with the word act in it. So for Jaro, for you, you're trying to grasp it because you like to read. So you're looking at words, but how is it being stored? Like I get the concept where we say the brain stores it, but they've dissected a brain. It doesn't get stored there. It probably gets recalled from there, but it doesn't get stored from there. Not to say I have the answer, Jaro. I can't say for sure if it's in the blood, let alone in the ether or in the aura, let alone in the mind. But I know I do deduction where I know it probably isn't. And scientists or people that have dissected the brain have helped confirm that the brain is just a bunch of gooey stuff. It's like the heart. We call it a brain, but what is it really? A place where blood goes in and out? That keeps us in the seeking mode. But when a person wants an answer, then they'll become what I call a bridge master. This is where you have people that'll defend a position. I'm a philosopher, so therefore I got to defend anything about Socrates. When did you choose to become a bridge master? Especially when there's many bridges. And some people, and Jaro, a lot of people feel comfortable in those positions. They want to take the same route all the time. Like for you this week, one of the consistency you probably did was wake up. How many people truly appreciate another moment to wake up? Only when we run low on air. You know, it's kind of like having I can relate to myself where I'll eat my pizza quite a bit and then I only appreciate when it's the last piece. You know, the fact that you told me, because I can relate, I do it myself too, where I eat late at night. So it takes me about 4 hours. So they say, I gotta give kudos to people that do investigation for the body first, most people to digest their food 4 hours. After those 4 hours, then and only then they're fasting. So let's say you eat at midnight. Your body does not get into fast mode till 4 o'clock in the morning. So now when you wake up at say 6 o'clock in the morning, you've only allowed your bodies to fast for 2 hours. So your body says, why would I want to wake up and break my fast after 2 hours? I just ate. And then we wonder why the body retains all the food in our vessel, because it'll be like me giving you a whole bunch of work to do, Jaro, and then 2 hours later, the work that I gave you is easily designed for 8 hours worth of work. But now 2 hours later, I give you another 4 more hours worth of work. Now you got 10 hours on your plate, or 12 or whatever that works out to, 12 hours.
I still feel full, F-U-L-L. I still feel, F-E-E-L, full, F-U-L-L. I'm a fool for being full in the morning.
You're talking about F-O-L-L, fool? Well, to be a fool, you're a seeker. That's why it's the first card in the tarot. An idiot's the person that knows everything, or he thinks, or she thinks that they know everything. I said, so what's guiding your thinking process? Your feelings? And then even that, is it developed? This is why a lot of people will defend or attack religion,
So
state.
that's the key.
There's a key.
We are fools looking for something that will fill, F-I-L-L, us. So we seek something that has a dogma. And we join Ekankar, or we join the science of this, Scientology, and we're getting filled. But though they're anchoring us, can I say that? That they're anchoring us to their cult.
Jaro, you like to read books. That's another version of a dogma, because what reading the book does in different hemispheres, you become very linear in your processing. This is why you hear about
when I get a book that I say, wow, that's interesting. Maybe this will fill the gaps that the other book left open. And then I read this and say, wait.
So knowing that, Jaro, what do you think? Have you ever pondered
a library to find, or a bookstore to find a book that will fill the gaps that this one created? Because each book that I get opens up new gaps, new questions. So I go to the bookstore and say, look, that one is related to the one I just got. Maybe that one is the key to opening that one. So I get a book after book that will give me the key to the other books.
Gerald, what books actually do, Gerald, it entertains externally some of the senses. So people will be bombarded with their visual senses. And because more times when you're reading a book, you're not actually using your ears. So, but you're using your touch. So touching a book. So this is why when people read a paper, so you're entertaining your senses. So what it does, it distracts you from listening from within. Because if you're listening from within, even listen to podcasts, that's entertaining another sense. Listening from within isn't a thing that we would call, I hear Dominic. That's not listening. That's hearing. Listening is something where it resonates with you or it just comes to your awareness. So what a book does is, a book is kind of, a book would be, I'll give you the example. You have a Ferrari, that's listening. The book would be a Mercedes at best. A oral teachings would be a Rolls Royce. Actually, that's not a good comparison because a Rolls Royce is probably financially wise is better than say a Ferrari. But again, those are all technology, even though we forget. Go ahead.
Here, I found it.
Go ahead, my friend.
I found the key to all my mistaken views.
Who does that belong to, Jaro? Hold on, Jaro. Who does that belong to when you say it's a mistake?
Kali. It says in the 3rd chapter of the famous tantric work, the Yoni Tantra, the 8 goddesses or powers, maybe those are psychic abilities, of Shakti are placed on the Yoni, which is worshipped as the dwelling place of the goddesses. Its essence is absorbed by the yogi. Kali and Tara are in the chakra of the Yoni. Chinamasta is the public fleece. Baglamukhi and Matangi are the labia majora. Mahalakshmi, Shodasi, and Bhuvaneshwari are hidden inside the Yoni. The insertion of the lingam into the Yoni is the great sadhana, spiritual practice, the most important thing in the recitation of the mantras, and the sadhana is the flow of sperm and of pleasure, says some text. The Yoni is considered to be the essence of the cosmos. What interest is there in bathing in the Ganges River and visiting the sacred sites? Nothing equals devotion to the Yoni. The sadhana of the Yoni is the greatest sadhana. In several tantras, it is asserted that absorption of the sublime essence of the Yoni cures illnesses. Women are divine, women are life, women are real jewels. The Yoni Tantra makes a close connection between the sadhana of Kali and the adoration of the Yoni. This liberates the yogi from all energies of the Pashu, the crude man, and transforms him into a Vira or hero.
Gerald, can I share something with you?
Wow.
I don't know who Don is, and I kind of know a little bit about you. If I brought any type of book out and I started speaking in a language you've never heard before, how would that serve you? I want you to ponder that, because what you just did there, you read a book on something that you like, which is great, but you're reading it in a language that a lot of people aren't going to grasp, and it might not even be of interest. I know I've deviated. We were going to talk about love, and I hope we will talk about love. You know, unless Don really likes the ideal about certain teachings from different other kinds of cultures, you spoke to us in a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said, if I started coming to this meetup and I started speaking Italian and you didn't understand it, and you only understood a couple of words because you speak Spanish, you would probably think, why am I here? This is how what I'm sharing with you, this is how the ego works.
Mhm.
And this is how energy travels. Majority of the people, unless they're flowing with the same energy, that's why it took for so long currency to be so strong, because it had to get everybody's mindset on it. But if all of a sudden now they wanted to go to digital, it's a slow process. But if all of a sudden now you were forced to use a different currency that you've been so used to using American currency, you might struggle with that. I get to a certain point how your mind works, but that's an example. So, but anyway, Dawn's back, and I don't know if she came here because I presented the ideal of what is love, is what we think love, obligation, and duty. Because a lot of people say the word love, but what is it really? Is it unconditional?
So yeah, I think that is the question, because what I find keeps happening is everyone uses these different words to point at the same thing, but because words get in the way.
Mhm.
You use one word, that word means something different to me, and we end up having a conflict, and it dissolves the point that we're trying to get to, because we can't get over the word usage. Love gets confusing that same way, because it's a word describing something. What is it that it's describing?
You said something, Donna, and maybe if sure, give me a second, Jarrell, so I can like put out the word, our English language that we use. There's sound to it. English is a meaningful tonality. It's not like Greek comprehension or Sanskrit's healing or some of the African native languages where literally when it's spoken, some of those language spoken might even be close to creation language. So such English is a meaningful language. This is why when a person says the word cool, what do you mean? Are you saying cool outside or my clothes? It's kind of like bastardizing words. And English is a combination of 4 other languages: Spanish, Latin, Germanic, and Spanish language, English, Latin. There's 4. Let me see: Germanic, Latin, Spanish, and there's another one, French. And if you think about all the empires, that's the language they use. So when me and you were talking, Don or Jarrell, it's a meaningful language. So it doesn't have any true energy to it. It does in a sense, but for meaning. That's why when you hear the word,
when you say meaningful, we're getting divorced from the root, maybe the source. If there's a source to many languages, where the sound had lots of power to heal, and then also there was comprehension that it caused one to understand maybe the way you structure the sentence and the grammar. And it seems like older languages like Greek and Sanskrit, the rules for creating something are very mathematical.
even
Like
number,
grammar.
Jarrell, even number. Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
And
Well, I
so
was just going to say that, yeah, I feel like what we're pointing at when we use a word like love is an intention, an energy, a force. But what gets confusing is because we put the language on it. We use it, like you said, the English language is made up of all of these different other languages. It gets very confusing. But when you remove all of that and there's no words involved, there's an energy, an intention, a force.
Yes.
Then we're on the same level. But getting to that understanding from a human position is what has been so complex and so confusing, so difficult.
In a sense, you said a word, understand. This is where each individual being has the opportunity to understand. I'm not here to understand you, you're here to understand yourself. So, but prior to understanding, understandment or understanding is discernment, wisdom. So when a person discerns, it's okay. So as the observer from within, you'll see, okay, that person's saying the word love, but then you listen inwards and says, no, they're not showing love. What they're doing is doing obligation or duty. Love would be something, the example I would give Don, I hope I pronounced it right. Sorry, Don. It would be, is love more catered to people's likes and dislikes? Because love could be, I just saw another human being, hurt another human being. I didn't interfere. Did you interfere when somebody was showing somebody kindness? Well, no, I didn't interfere. I said, now you're showing love. See, people think love is based on their likes. This is when people philosophize. No, either you bring them both in or you don't bring none at all. So we hear the word, well, I don't like it. Oh, okay. No different. Somebody says, I agree. I said, okay, so let me have a quick exercise here. Me and Don, I'm using you as an example, Don. We're going to both look up an object in the sky and we're going to see something that our forefathers left us a language, and we're going to call it the sun. Now, Don says to me, I'm just using this for pure exercise, Don, by the way. I disagree with you, Don, that's the Don, or I agree with you, that's the sun. I said, okay, Don, can you see what I just said or experienced through my senses? No. So then what would we be agreeing or disagreeing? See, the idea that people debate and argue with each other is delusional. What they're really doing is, I've been conditioned with a view, even though I have many views. This is why when people play the word cognitive dissonant or whatever, I said, you have more than just two views that you can entertain. So now in this particular case, love is just a word, but if you go inwards, because we have many receivers in our bodies and said, okay, I need to understand with reason or patterns. So the pattern is when my mom says to me, Dominic, I love you, I said, okay, that's one version, but I think that's obligation and duty. Why? Because I've never seen you love a total stranger. And if I get to do that, then the energy would be different. Dom, you've actually got to experience love. What do you mean? Because that's that person's likes or dislike. It's when you love a total stranger or you show kindness, then you get to feel that energy. But unfortunately for most people, then if love is based on obligation and duty, well, then if I join the military to harm another human being, would that be love? I said, in the envelope, yes. What do you mean? As long as you don't interfere. Be the observer of those things. Just don't interfere with them. What do you mean? Well, if I interfere with it, then you're going to become aware that you understand the wonderful world of duality. I agree or disagree with that particular position. This is why it's hard to show love if it's using the word unconditional when most of us are being conditioned. That's the tongue twister. But you can become aware of those things. And once you become aware, you can learn something. It's okay, well, Dominic, if I become aware of those things, then you don't need the lesson anymore. You can move on to your next lesson. You know, and we're here to experience many things. I didn't come in this world to think, well, did I earn to become a trillionaire? Because there's people out there that own a lot of stuff. And I don't think they even own, they rule. This is why we have concepts of landlords. A person that says, well, Dominic, I own a bunch of apartments. I said, you're not a landlord. You're in the housing business, unless you have allodial rights. This is where even, Don, the industry that you're in, hits its own dogma. If you honestly think Scientology is a big game, when you find out the accountant system, how it really works, you know, who was Robin Hood stealing from? He was stealing from the tax collector. He wasn't stealing from the elite. He was stealing from the tax collector. And how did the elites reward Robin Hood's behavior? I'm going to screw the people that you were trying to help.
Well,
it's a game within it. But
I was just going to say that the tax collector and the elite are one and the same.
The Rothschilds, the barons play one game. They do the currency game, the fiat currency. The government, most times or not, all of them have strings on them. All of them.
Right. All of them do. Because the master, you cannot have a master, like you said earlier, without a slave. And so the bidding is being done for the benefit of someone. And of course, just like the mob, the whole thing is just, to me, I see the same pattern as the mob. It's the same thing, that you have someone doing the bidding, they're taking from off the top, and then, you know, passing on the rest to their master. And so that's just how it appears to me. I see patterns, and I see that same pattern over and over and over again in our society and in history.
And the thing is, Don, when you actually when people stop going towards the point to find out who the ones ruling all this, and you look at the mass and said, the masses are at fault.
Yes.
They don't want, like I tell my buddies all the time, I said, okay, so let's say you don't agree with what, the two crown corporations running right now, the Vatican and the Queen's realm. Where is your role of growing your own food and raising your own animals? What do you mean? Well, there's big corporations out there that actually do all of that. Did they do that because you didn't want to do that anymore, or you took that away from us? Most people want their convenience. But what they do is they want to control others with their privileges. So now, is there love in all of that? No, there isn't. Unless you can observe and say, okay, There's people in the world that rule over other people, and then there's other people in the world that want to be ruled by other people. But is that to say that everybody wants to be ruled? Most people do want to be ruled. Because if we didn't, then me and Jaro wouldn't be using somebody else's technology. We wouldn't be living in somebody else's heated invention. Jaro wouldn't be reading books that somebody else chose to create the concept of writing, let alone do all the process of doing the regurgitating, finding another book, getting a whole bunch of people teaching. Because if it was really important that what Buddha, I'm only guessing at this point, what he has to say, he never used any of those devices. He basically said, I was given a voice, so I spoke freely. It's the other people, his students that think, well, we'll write it down. I said, you're working in somebody else's kingdom now. And so am I, because I'm using a voice, but I'm using my voice through somebody else's technology. Now, somebody could turn around and say, well, Dominic, but you're sharing it freely. I said, not really. What do you mean? I have to pay for the internet. And if I don't pay for it, my next generation might have to pay for the fact that what are they going to do with all this old technology? Because we think it's old technology. No, we just don't know enough to actually utilize it for its full capacity. Why? We do that with our own vessels. We have such an amazing technology within our own vessel, but we've never worked collectively. But yet we will allow other people to say, well, we're going to have one ruler over you. We'll call it Siri. We'll call Alexis the queen. Okay, and that's fine. But most people, if they become aware of those things, chain of commands are there. Don is tapping on it where, yes, there is rulers. They're not owners, there's rulers. This is why we have people called dukes and all that. But they're just small chains of commands. Now, is there other beings? Well, then that opens to my question is, okay, so who gave us the alchemy of languages? Who gave us the internet? You know, I tell Don, I've never been with you before. I tell most people, I said, unless you're the few that can actually do astral travel, when have you ever left your vessel? When have you been taught by your parents how to breathe? So your teacher's not out there. Now, the concept could be, we could be like receivers. So we're receiving information from another realm. I still think clouds are portals, but that's my view. I'm not going to write a book on it because if it's meant to be understood from within, then you can only comprehend it from within. Everything else is just entertainment, whether it's in a book form or TV and all that, because most of us never stop and think, well, then how does a TV come to be? It's a square box, but people put their likes and dislikes or their comforts involved. They're not tell somebody your attachment is not based on your resistance to pain, but to your comforts. That's suffering. Why? Because you can never get enough of it. Most people never get tested that way. They're not, me, you, Don, be brought up in a war savage country. You know, when I hear people, let's make life, you guys, because you guys in America, you hear another puppet say, you know, let's make America great. When there was slavery, when women couldn't vote, and even that, who are they allowed to vote for? One of your puppets? It's when you become aware. It's an illusion. It's a big joke, and the joke is on me. But as long as you can be comfortable, say, okay, but I'm not going to revolt. Okay, but at least you can become aware. You know, I was born a male form, but the thing is, I shouldn't be accountable for other people, but I should at least be accountable in this sense, responsibility to understand what was history written. And even that, I got to take with a grain of salt that it was doctored up a little bit. You know, when Don, go ahead, Tori, go ahead, Jaro.
So, Don, what little I've learned about you is very interesting. I haven't gotten into Eckankar, but I've seen those little books that they give out at like veggie fest and things like that. But like on a table, they have little two people, usually two women who are in the cult or maybe in the gatherings that they have, and so they have a table with material or so I think I grabbed a little book maybe by Harold Kemp or the founder of Eckankar, and say, oh, that sounds pretty good. But I browsed through it. So then you mentioned saying that Thursday was your last day with Eckankar. So, how did you come about to that uh, decision, may I ask? That's
So let me be clear. Actually, I was never a member of Eckankar. I was only attending Zoom classes, Zoom meetings
oh,
with, I'm part of a Facebook group. I think they're called Enlightenment something. And someone has been, one of the admins on that, in that group, has been posting these long posts that I agree with. Some of the, a lot of things he was saying, I agree with. And at one point I saw, he said, oh, hey, I'm having a Zoom meeting on these Thursdays and Sundays. And so I attended, and right away I noticed some belief system signals that that pattern was appearing to me. But I've learned enough to be patient and not react right away. I wanted to see, what was this about? So they were saying the word ECK, E-C-K, and I was like, what is that? I'd never heard of it. So I, looked it up, and I found out it was Eckankar, and then the guy sent me some information about it, and all of a sudden they start telling you about the word Hu, H-U, and you have to sing this sound, and it's the sound that connects you to God, and it means love, and I just, I said, okay, well, let me see what this feels like, and then I just saw this pattern that was clearly developing for me, that this is a belief system. Now, mind you, I had not searched the internet for opponents to it at that time, because I wanted to experience for myself what they were saying. And so I noticed when I was asking questions, this leader would say something, oh, you have to find the answer within you. But he was talking about himself and how he was a friend to Jesus Christ, and how he was there. He had all these different lifetimes that he had lived, and it's just simple questions he wouldn't answer. He always said, you have to find the answer with your own inner guru. And if you're not able to do that, then you're not ready to be an initiate. And I just thought, this is so strange. At any rate, this past Thursday, I decided, well, why don't we just take a look at what the opposite side, because you can't have one without the other. Why? And that's what I think happens to a lot of people in these groups. They only see what they want you to see, but they don't show you, or people don't take the time to look at the opponent's side. So once I looked at what opponents were saying, that same pattern that I witnessed and experienced for myself was being spoken by other people. And I said, okay, so I am seeing this pattern. It's not just me that's seeing this pattern. And what I recognized that pattern as was a belief system that had rules that you had to follow. And if you don't do this, there's these negative consequences against you. But it's so, it's subtle in the beginning as they're trying to pull you in. And I had not been aware that there were these, that it was this big of an organization. It's a religion. It really is. So I was happy. And periodically, as I attended these groups, this leader would say, have you been studying the material, Dawn? And I said, no, I'm not ready. I don't feel led to do that. It's an energy that pulls me in the direction that I feel I need to go. And nothing's telling me I need to dig deeper into this. And so I said, good, I don't need to continue to dig deeper into this, because I already know what it's about, and I don't want to follow any belief systems.
Well done. Well done, Dawn. There's always that being that's going to share with you some validity for another being. And then there's the other entrapment. A lot of stuff is from within, but unfortunately the ego leads. And what happens is, think about when people knock on the door. For every door that they knock on, they're looking to sell to one or two of them. And this is what happens. A lot of people already have a pre-design that they want to fit in. But you said something, Dawn, that probably tells me a lot about your soul, where you don't lead with reacting as much as you have the ability to respond, hence responsibility. Most people cannot take accountability if they've never really learned responsibility. Most people, they're counting on most people to get caught up in their underdeveloped feelings. So I can't leave it. What do you mean? I said, well, it doesn't matter what dogma it is. If it's a dogma that doesn't have it ingrained within it to question it, then why would I join it? And this is where when teacher says, well, yeah, I don't want to be questioned. I said, no, this has nothing to do with you. I'm questioning the teachings. What do you mean? I said, a guy like Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Socrates, Joan of Arc, whoever, it can only be a belief system because I never lived with those people. Now, if I did live with a guy named Jesus, I would just know of him, but I have no discernment. I would have to ask him a question. What do you stand for? Think about when somebody knocks on your door, can we count on your vote? I said, that's a belief system. What do you mean? I said, there's nothing I know about that person. What's their characteristics? So now when there's a teachings, this is where you can learn to have discernment. This is why I say kind of pompous a little bit, because I just want to see how people are with their feelings. Jesus could have been an idiot. Muhammad could have been an idiot. But all of a sudden now you'll see a whole bunch of Muslims will defend him. I said, that confirms it. What do you mean? I said, you're not here to defend a human being. You're here to learn the teachings. And don't think for some reason another human being is your teacher. Because if they are, then who taught you how to breathe? What do you mean? Do you know what breath is? Consciousness? I don't know what it is. Now, most of us see the effects. You'll see a leaf moving in the wind, but that doesn't mean we see air. You know, even when I tell people, I said, the word laws is not what humans talk about. Laws is for light, air, wind, and space. It has nothing to do with man-made structures. But that's where we are. And the fact that you did that, Don, because you can go down a lot of routes. You can go down to watchtowers for Jehovah's Witness. You can try to understand other things. But for most people, they're not interested in learning. What they're interested in is fitting in. And they would be the worst people because they're going to defend and attack. And the thing is, that's a perpetual cycle. You know, we live in a world that we treat, if they could speak, it would be hard for us to take. If animals were able to speak and tell us what the cruelty that we've done to them, you know, sure, we could turn around and say, yeah, but I have a pet, I have a cat, or Don has a dog. I said, oh, so you've taken me from being wild to being domestic. Because nature's wild and untamed, but it does have boundaries. And the boundaries are light, air, wind, and space. If not, then the ocean can blow over the earth whenever it wants. It doesn't work that way. Unless we've done something, maybe not me and Don and Jaro, but we might have collectively, not even collectively, in groups, done things. You know, somebody could say, yeah, but I don't go around taking the oil from the ground. I said, but you do drive cars, don't you? So indirectly, you're participating in it. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but let's say they did find out it's good or bad. Are you willing to reap the rewards from those things? You know, that character that you were probably talking to, Don, was probably a child. And when I say a child, we're all children, but he's a child that he thinks or she thinks that they understand a lot of things. I said, okay, so what's the knowledge and belief in all of that? You know, where's the discernment? You know, dare not tell somebody else you don't see language. They say, well, Don, you have to read the book. I said, written works is a very small, primitive way of, you know, sharing with each other. Why? Because that's symbology. Every letter is a symbol. Every number is a symbol. Don uses it. I use it. You know, I'm a Virgo, so I would probably be catering to doing data, accounting numbers and all that. But if you really stop and think about it, so how does the number 9 work? I know I use it, but how does it work? Why is it when you multiply number 9 with any number except with 0, why does it go back to number 9? That's the spiritual meeting the material number. Number 8 is a material number. Number 7 is a spiritual number. This is where we don't realize each letter, each number has a ruler. This is why when people talk about the gods, who rules over the water? That's one god or a bunch of gods. Who rules over the trees? That's another god. Now, are they gods, demigods, aliens, reptilians? We can call it whatever we want. Again, that's the English language again.
I was thinking about numbers yesterday evening because in a discussion that we as the we is a group that come together to study Buddhism. There's the thought that I came up with saying, well, what about numbers? Like they seem impermanent because there's the big deal in Buddhism that everything is impermanent. That is from moment to moment is changing. So I said, well, what about numbers? Look, like the number 2. it's always there. It's not going to change into number 3. like like you go to all cultures and they have the numbers. Like I imagine that even animals, when they gather things, they say, oh, there's a bunch of nuts in my little nest. Oh, there's fewer nuts. Oh, I better go get some. So maybe they have an idea of numbers of things. Like so numbers are used to get an idea of how much stuff you have to keep for the winter and stuff like that. So numbers are universal. And so the number 1, that's just by itself. And then you get another 1 and you get 2, and you add another 1 and you get 3. So I was thinking, well, numbers are permanent because they're always there. You can't change them. Maybe they're in your mind, but you can't imprison them. But then last night I said, wait a minute, the number 2 is related to number 1 and number 3, because you can't have the number 2 without having 1 and 3 being their neighbors. So that means I came to the realization that even numbers have relationships. So like in the number line, you go, okay, here's 0, okay, here's 9. And so they have their place. And when you have your place, then you have relationship to other numbers. And so that means, well, it's hard to say that you can't really say that numbers are impermanent, but numbers have relationships. And so that makes them dependent. They depend upon the other numbers. So, but then Dominic says that the number 9 it has this special characteristic. And so like when you get 9 times 1, you get 9. You get the number 9. 9
Gerald,
times 2, you get 18. So 1 plus 8 is 9. So you get the number again. That's something like unique about that number. Why is that? Why?
Gerald, you're asking a lot of whys. That's a philosophy question. Because I know your sign is, one of your signs is Virgo. The impermanence that they were talking about wasn't in the spiritual. They were talking about the material. Your body's very impermanent. Okay, but now you're talking about recording. So number 2, you don't constantly think of number 2, but you can bring it up every so often. Now, that's not what they're talking about impermanent. This is where people write things down and I said, now you've got the photocopy version. It'll be like me saying something to Dawn. Dawn says something to her mother. Mother says something to your uncle. By the time it gets back to me, it's been bastardized. This is why there's an ongoing recording going within. So the reason why I say numbers have certain symbologies to, not symbologies, it is a symbology, but they have certain energy to them. So when people play with the ideal of 440 opposed to 432, it all adds up to number 8. So one particular musical instrument's more attained for the physical. The other one's is physical and the spiritual. But within that, there's a 440 and a 432. We play with acronyms of 3s. The spiritual realm does it with 4s. That's why we have the word news, north, east, west, and south. So for you, you're getting on the ideal that numbers are impermanent, but the way the Buddhism was taught was not about that. It was about the material. It's eventually going to age, perish. So don't be so caught up on it, because moment to moment, you don't record, you don't recall things, but what you do recall is what? A thought. You're experiencing thoughts. It's, you know, a person when they're talking about, well, they say things like my wife. Oh, so it's your wife, your kids, your car. You own nothing. And if you did, you would have to be able to explain. So then, do you own thoughts? I don't know about Dawn or you, Jar. I'm just using Dawn because you haven't been here before. Where did you go to school to learn a million words? No, you didn't. And I can say that about most people. So then how are we picking up all these words? This goes back to the monkey in one part of the world, basically cracks a nut. And usually if it's an alpha monkey, consciousness, air, prana, chi picks it up. And another monkey, preferably an alpha, think about women, when they get together, if there's an alpha among them and they hang around long enough, their cycles will unite because that's energy. We don't know. It's like, think about in certain parts of the world, the way the moon's located, it affects water. This is why when some people get an injury, all of a sudden now they're affected more by the atmosphere of the moon. We don't really understand how the moon, well, I can't say that's kind of arrogant on my part. There's probably is people that understand it to a certain point, but we've never as a collective understood what does the moon and sun really do, opposed to what we think it does. Where somebody said, well, it's heat. I said, well, then if it's heat, let me give you a quick 101. You're on the beach, it's nice and hot. By midday, you go up on a plane, you jump out of a parachute, out of a plane. Why is it colder up there than down here? Because people don't understand magnetic force. Because as above, so below. There's magnetic poles on both sides. There could be a sun underneath us. I don't know. But that's me being humble when I say I don't know. But if I did know, I would want to have wisdom and understanding next. I would want to have discernment. So I know the difference. I say, oh, okay. So Dom, all the stuff I've been told before, yeah, Dom, that's a belief system or that's knowledge. Even when people say, I hear people, let's build on what foundation? I hear people talk about, no offense, but people that have a certain color, they say, I'm a 5%. I said, what are you? 2% milk and you just doubled it plus an extra one? I said, what child mentality are you using by telling somebody else that you think you're better than anybody else? That's what dogmas is. Oh, I'm the Pope.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The other day, and a few weeks ago, we had a meeting on that. The topic evolved into belief systems because I went back and listened to it. It was the first live stream. It was December 31st, 2022. And so you can go to the Wake Up and Think Clearly channel to listen to it, or you can go to, let's see, wutc.live / and you put the year that was 2022, and then the month 12, and the date 31. And I think that will take you to it. Anyway, it evolved into thinking about belief systems. So when Don mentioned that something rang a bell, oh, this is a belief system. So maybe she has trained herself to watch out for belief systems or dogmas, and so she said, oh, there's a belief system involved, and then maybe there's something about it that causes one to have to give up something to get in there. And so
there's nothing to give up.
Oh, I better get out of this. I'm okay with what I've learned so far, but
Gerald, there's nothing to give up. You talking about the Georgian calendar is its own belief system. Ponder that for a second, Gerald. Go ahead.
So what about love? Could love be used into a belief system?
If you're already within the belief system, why have more belief systems?
All belief systems have something about love, like love thy enemies, and well, just general love, as in loving kindness or being nice to at least your family members, respecting your parents, things like that. That's kind of loving, being kind.
Well, respecting other people, hence considerate. That's
okay. Being considerate. That requires some practical. Maybe that's an expression of love. I don't know. What is love?
Well, we can probably deduce what it isn't.
Oh.
Is kindness love? Is hate love? Is respect love?
You could
some people will say it.
You could express a hateful message, and you might have a motivation of love to save someone from danger.
But is love, Jaro, is love an energy that it doesn't?
Your child and smack him so that he never crosses the street, and to save his life from getting killed by crossing the street. So
it could be an act of kindness.
The child might say, "Oh, that was very hateful of you, parents," but it was with a loving intention from the parents.
Okay, what happened if it's a total stranger's kid in the same situation? Would that person do the same thing? You'll know right then and there if that's love or not. You see, Gerald, love is not something, love is an energy. It's not something that's yours to own. You get to experience it. So now it's unconditional. Once again, I said earlier, how do we do unconditional in a conditioned realm? I know we're using words and I get it, and it's just a word. And that's what I say. I could deduce what it isn't. It's like people talk about flat earth and round earth. I said, I can deduce what it isn't, but that doesn't prove whatever it is. This is what, you deduce everything and then whatever's left, that's the truth. I said, whoever said that before is playing a game with themselves, which is fine. As long as they're playing their own game, just don't keep writing books on that crap, because there's too many books in the world already. And there's way too many of us yip yapping. Where what is love? Is love something you do for other people? I don't know. It's an individual journey, and a person could say, okay, well, I did it for this person. Okay, have you done it with other people before? Could you love another person that was trying to harm you? Well, this is where people get caught up in this idea that my parents don't love me. Okay, I'm just using that as an example. Then are you being the example then?
So why does Don's dog that appeared briefly show love to Don? Is it something selfish in it, or is it an expression of unconditional love? Or maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's habitual. What do you think, Don?
Well, I can tell you for sure that she believes she owns me. And she does.
The master and you're the slave.
I am the slave and I am the master, which that's a great example of what I would say is reality, because all is one in my view. And so our relationship is definitely where she is the master and I'm the slave at times. And I am the master and the slave from my perspective. And so I feel like it's a give and take. The love that I believe, because I don't know, I'm not there inside her, but I believe that there is an obligatory love that she experiences. But I also believe that there is, and I feel like I've witnessed and seen in her eyes a emotion. I don't know how to say it otherwise. A care. Like when she first came to me, I've only had her since July. I was so confused. I didn't know how to take care of her. I was worried that I was making mistakes. So some mornings I would sit here and cry because I cared about her, but I was trying to learn her. And she would come over and stand up. She's so tall. She would stand up and she would hug me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, she was expressing what word I would use is compassion. Yeah, very interesting.
Animals show a lot of things. Again, animals could be what some people consider, there could be walk-ins. There's a good chance an animal can say everything will be okay. I get it, humans like animals, we're limited. So it could be like you did on compassion. It could be it trust and say, we'll work it out together. Or I'm very grateful that you took me in as a human being. And we can use words like mastery and slaves, but then we can play that wonderful world of codependence, which we all get to experience. And that's why I say we have many layers of beliefs. Don, you say it out of your mouth, belief. It's when we catch ourselves before we start speaking. But do I just want to limit myself to belief? I kind of want to know. And then once you know, because knowledge is just a child, where do I want to go beyond child? This is why when you hear phrases like son, daughter, whatever, go get wise counsel. That's wisdom. This is why they have depictions in a lot of the, you see statues of a woman holding a baby. That they're trying to depictuate the wisdom holding knowledge. Now, it's not designed just solely for women to have the feminine side, wisdom. Men can do it too in the male form. So animals too. So animals might show loyalty, where we call that love. But then somebody can say, okay, but I'm going to dissect it. What do you mean? I said, well, it's a wild animal and you've made it domestic. So if you can go inwards and say, okay, so if I had a slave master and he showed me kindness, but I become aware that even if I wanted to give him what he wants me to be a slave, and I find out I'm this ultimate being then I couldn't even give him that if I wanted to. Want just means lack. So again, you can get that same interaction of a dog showing love to Don or showing kindness or respect than you could if a man decides to capture a woman or another man, imprison them, and eventually feed them after a couple of days. So is that love? I don't think it is personally. But unless you're the observer and don't get caught up in your likes and dislikes, I said, well, then love is maybe encompasses everything. So a man that has a cruel dog, a man that has a kind dog, he says, I'm not here to interfere. Now the person could try, yeah, but you trained him. I said, did I train him or did I just bring out what was already in there? Again, a lot of people want to be conditioned. That's the reality. They want to be conditioned. Now they can blame their parents for that, but they still want to be conditioned. Why? Because we've already come out of the womb with a lot of conditions.
No,
You know,
All
condition.
is relative. Mhm.
Say that again,
Oh,
Don. Sorry,
I was
Jar.
just saying, all is relative,
Oh, that's a
no
beautiful
matter
word,
which
relative.
way we
oh,
go.
condition is an interesting word because I heard something in one of my audiobooks. The Master Key System.
Hmm.
That's that book that I heard that that Bill Gates listened to it very young, and that influenced his life. And so in there, I was listening to audio book version of it on YouTube, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting. I that's a I'll think about that." And it's because in Buddhism, I hear things like, okay, causes and conditions. So, okay, let me think about that. There's causes and results. So maybe so so like see where I think of conditions as the physical environment and causes how I got to where I'm at and what caused them. It would be my karma, my actions. And so, but then I heard in that audiobook that thoughts are the causes of conditions, something like that. It was paraphrased. So I'm thinking about that.
You're
So maybe
using the. Mhm.
every thought is an action. So maybe when I think of doing something, I have a motivation, and just that motivation is like a karma, a karmic action, a karma. So that's why the Jews had these laws for the people to be good to each other, like don't do this, don't do that. The Ten Commandments, and one of them was not something about your wife, maybe don't covet the wives of others or something like that. And so there's the don't commit adultery. And so, but then Jesus said something that brings it back to the source. He says, even imagining or thinking about someone else's wife, that is an adultery. I said, wow. So
Jar, before you go on there,
gods create things.
you said you brought up, okay, you go on these tangents, which is great. I think, Jaro, and I know your mind works wonderfully that way, because you hear it wasn't even the Jews. The Jews are just the gypsies. When you talk about rules, in this case, commandments, and they say not to covenant the wife, those were man-made rules right then and there. Where's the woman in all of that? See, we have to remember men, men, are clever. They're not wise, they're clever. They make these rules. Our beings are restricted within these realms. So now, in these forms, we have to learn. This is why when you talk about, you don't see language, so you don't know what the cause is. Just because we say the word cause and effect, we live in the effect and side effect realm. People don't see where the alchemy of language is. So you don't know where the cause is. You can speculate all we want, and we can theorize about it, but we don't see it. So the senses are limited then. And how we know that? Because the senses could easily be misled at any moment. So now, when we talk about things such as the cause, okay, so where's it coming from then? You know, then we can break it down. We can't move on to it unless a person thinks he's asking a question because there's an answer. There's your belief system. cause and effect. This goes back to 1 + 1 = 2. Most people get caught up in the outcome. But if I turn around and said, can I change 100 minus 98? Yes. Does it still give you the same outcome? What about 2 times 1? Yes. So when you start getting away from the outcome, that's what sports does and a lot of things. That's what it teaches, outcomes only. Winners are losing. When somebody says, you see the glass half full, half empty, I said, that's a child's game. What happened when you start telling somebody, can I talk about the table? Yes. Can I talk about what's in the glass? Yes. What happened if I told you I don't even see the words I speak? Well, now I'm beyond your capability because you limit yourself. It's like us. We use the technology. How many of us truly use a thing like a laptop to its fullest capacity? Rarely, let alone discover who created all of this. You said something about Bill Gates. That'll be like Michael Jordan said, I use this razor. He just uses his name on it. Who's to say he ever even uses it? Who fucking cares? This is what I'm saying. Cares. I said it in a very tonality that way, but who really cares? You honestly think a guy like Bill Gates really cares about Gyro Amino? So what purpose would that person put it in there? To sell. Because we already are consumers. That's what a belief system is. A belief system is a stumbling block. That's all it is. Now, once you become aware, science, religion, state, they're all the same. You talk to a person that's an atheist. I said, so you went from one belief system to another. You went from what, being a Hebrew to a secular? It's still a belief system. Who created those belief systems? Well, I don't know. I said, you finally humbled yourself. You don't know. But let's say you do know. Okay. Are you going to go towards discernment? Oh, I've been living a lie. Have you really been living a lie? Or have you just allowed yourself to be easily misled? You know, if people found out how fiat currency really worked, they would be all upset. I said, you have no business of being upset. You don't really have discernment. You've chosen to play the game. That's all. There's nothing right or wrong about that, Gyro. I don't think I jumped into the vessel. I wasn't born in the vessel. But that's me. I'm allowed to share that stuff. Now, other people could say, well, Dom, you're trying to convince me. I said, am I writing millions of books? No. So then why are you saying I'm trying to convince you? Unless they already know. Go ahead.
If I discern where the fiat currency comes from, I might get upset,
Maybe.
but there's nothing I can do about it because I'm comfy.
Well, you can do something about it. You can observe it. This is the whole misleading part. Sorry, Gyro, you said earlier about karma. You can have a thought. That's not karma yet. Karma is when you're in the physical, when you've done it in the physical. I'll give you an example. If I have ill intent for another human being in thoughts, but I don't actually fulfill it in the action, I can apologize now. But you never did nothing. I said, no, that's a different kind of an apology. What do you mean? If I've done something to harm you in the physical, I can only repay you by my example in the physical, but I stopped it in my thoughts, hence blessing and cursing. See, that's a game that we've been conditioned. Oh, God bless America. When did we speak on behalf of entities? These are guys that are idiots. Now, unless there's a game that they are aware of and they're not sharing with us, then they're still idiots. Why? Because give it to everybody else. Let them decipher how they want to see it. If all of a sudden everybody said, well, Dominic, I want to be able to print money too. I said, well, then you would have to pay the military. You would have to train them. You'd have to train them to go to things called universities. Why? It's a dumbed down program. It's not a school education system. It's a schooling system. Then you would have to teach everybody how to walk around with a cell phone and not even understand how energy works or doesn't work. Would most of us be prepared to hear that? Forget about whether or not you listen from within. Now, if you truly understand what word love is, oh, that's how the system was set up. Oh, okay, I guess I'm just participating. I'm going to have a couple of lifespans here. If I even value the concept of reincarnation, I would have to, unless I say, well, then how does somebody become a trillionaire and me and Don and Gyro just poor little peasants here? They must value the concept. They come back over and over again. But did they come back as a human? I don't know. Would I be the fool to try to seek that kind of stuff? Yeah, sometimes I do. It's the idiot that thinks oh, I know for sure. The Buddha come back 13 different times. So what did he learn? Attachments. So then why is a monk going around dressing himself up with attachments of color of his robe? Or the Dalai Lama, you know how I feel about the Dalai Lama. He's a child. But anyway, I'm still a child. God, I'm glad I'm entertaining because I like to entertain people. Because I realize we live in a world that, not even the world, the human race itself We take ourselves way too serious and too silly, opposed to being sincere. I can never change this around the way it is. It is what it is. I'm very grateful that it is what it is. I have my own problems once in a while, and even that's all in my thoughts.
Oh, it's that time again.
Okay, pull it out, my friend.
Where is it? Oh, here it is.
Let Dawn pick this time if she wants to.
The bucket of love and compassion.
What is it about?
Oh, I put, I folded slips of paper with wise thoughts from different. Well, mostly, yes. I had this friend of mine. He passed away, but he gave me this idea to fold up sayings and put them in there, and then you grab one out every morning and read about it and meditate it on it today. So today we will meditate on a wisdom thought or saying or a quote from this bucket, and let's see what today's is. Okay, now Don, imagine that you have control over my hand, and you're going in there to grab something. And okay,
to the left. Grab it.
oh,
Right
oh,
circus.
oh, that's a good one.
How do you know? How do you know, Jaro?
I feel it. He can sense it.
Oh wow, this one's interesting. Let's see, taking ourselves seriously. That's what Don was saying. The meaning, oh, Dominic, yeah, means actually looking at how we are experiencing our life, and if there is something unsatisfactory about it, admitting it to ourselves. Our tension and stress do not go away by denying them or avoiding taking an honest look. And admitting that something is amiss is not the same as complaining about it and feeling sorry for ourselves, nor does it imply that something is fundamentally wrong with us and we are guilty of being a bad person because we are nervous. So being objective, not melodramatic, and remaining non-judgmental are essential for any healing spiritual progress. So I get from it that we should, like Dominic says, we take ourselves too seriously. So maybe this will
Very synchronistic.
very something to think about today, so that when we get stressed out and we try to remember this and say, oh, could I be taking myself too seriously? Oh yes, so I should maybe take a breather and relax and not get upset about that guy that was on the road and overtook me or something, or honked at me at the back. Maybe I'm driving too slow.
How dare he? Yes.
Well, there's a lot to be said. You know, the duality of, usually when a person asks a silly question, there's always either a silly or serious response or vice versa. It's when you're sincere. You're no longer playing with the coin. You're sincere in your approach. Now, how you come across, like I said, I play this game because, you know, it's like speed dating. You don't want to find out later on in life that person has a weak demeanor, and there are going to be more problems for both people involved. So when people are usually serious, think about defense and attack. And a lot of people that are serious, they literally have to go to a comedy club to de-stress.
We have a special guest knocking at the door. Shall I admit him?
That's your call, my friend.
His name is Joel.
That's your call.
CVO, certified Vinci officiant, is waiting in the waiting room.
Let him in.
He's my favorite Canadian from Toronto. Oh no, Dominic is from Toronto too, so I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Joel, CVO, certified Vinci officiant, is in the house. Welcome, Joel. We were waiting for you. You must have wonderful news. When are you coming to Orlando? That's where I'm at, Orlando, Florida. Where are you, Don?
I'm in Citrus County, Florida. So I'm like an hour or so away from you. That's awesome.
Where is Citrus County?
It's north, I believe. Oh, I'm still new here, so forgive me. It's towards the villages.
The
The village.
villages. Is that
Yeah.
like an elite community of rich people, and that they settle down in this community? Is it like gated or something?
No, the villages started off as a gated community for like the elderly, older people, but then it grew into a city. So it's its own city now, and it is, I think they're a little bit more wealthy, and it's a massive community. So I'm new to it, but let's see. I'm also close to, let's see, with Lakuchi, Crystal River. I don't know if you've heard of Crystal River. I'm
No,
here, Inverness.
but I get an idea that you're north of Orlando.
Yeah,
I
maybe more like west or east. I'm
northwest.
so confused.
I'll
I'm
have to look
sorry.
at it in the map.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yes.
haven't gone that way. I've gone northeastwards because when I want to go to like Daytona Beach, then I would go northeastward, and so I hit places like Sanford and the land and so on, and the roads are good to get there.
Mm.
But I've heard that Joel is going to be vacationing in Florida, maybe like Zephyr Hills area. Is that
No,
correct?
Definitely.
no, that fell through. I couldn't find a place to stay, so I'm probably gonna go to Texas.
Yeah,
No,
darn.
you could stay with Don.
Yeah, yeah, you can stay with me. I end up, I have a huge house.
Really? Where are
Yeah.
you?
I'm not far from Zephyr Hills. I forgot to say, I'm close to Tampa, so I'm like an hour from Tampa.
Okay, so that's like
So
the place
Zephyr
I
Hills
was.
is not far.
Okay,
You
that's
could
sort
do
of like the.
a bed and bath with Don, and she could make some money.
Yeah,
Oh
You know, could feed her dog. Her dog is huge and is costing her lots of dog food.
yeah. Yeah.
wow. Well, I wish I would have known that because a friend of mine in another Zoom group in Austin has had this sort of similar arrangement. So Neonita and I were going to stay with her, but I can't leave Toronto yet. I'm waiting for some medical results to make sure I can survive the trip. No, but hopefully not.
Are you
And
gonna be driving?
yeah,
Wow.
well,
How
it's the same.
great.
It's the same distance to Texas as it is to Florida.
I would say so.
Yeah, it's about almost the same, just going a little less south and a little more west.
Oh,
I would have preferred Florida had we not made this
I was
commitment.
hoping to meet you physically.
Yeah, me too. I would have looked forward to it.
Maybe you could go down to Texas and then go across down to Florida and say hello in Orlando, and then
Well,
go
maybe next year.
out.
Maybe
Okay,
next
next year.
Yeah,
It's not too far away.
no.
2024 election next year.
Yeah, that'll be more
On the
interesting.
campaign route. Maybe say hello to join a Donald Trump rally or something.
Yeah, I've been to one. I was at one when I was in Florida a few years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. He wasn't there, but some radio announcer who's kind of one of his big supporters was there.
Yeah, I was outside one in Orlando when he was going to start campaigning for his 2020. He first hit Orlando, and I took video of it and put it on my YouTube channel. But I didn't go inside. I was just in the outskirts and looking at people selling MAGA stuff and stuff.
Yeah, it
kind
was interesting. It was interesting to me. So how did you find this place, Dawn? It's so nice to see a pretty face here. Not that you're not pretty, Jairo, but
Oh.
Well, it came up in my, what do you call, Explore on Meetup.
Okay.
And so I haven't
Wow.
particularly been participating in very much because when I got here to Florida just before the pandemic occurred,
Whoa.
I basically I've only really been working. So just recent, and my awakening really started in April of 2020, and it's just been a whirlwind ever since. So I basically have been trying to get out, trying to meet people. I want to have more conversations with people like this, and so this came up, and I was like, oh, really? Some people that I might be able to talk to. So I jumped straight in, and it's my first meeting with you guys. I'm excited.
Thank
I
you
hope
for
I hope they
joining.
behave themselves.
Oh, they did so good for me this morning. I feel
Oh,
like
wow.
everybody's been very generous and open, and
Yes, I
I like
haven't.
this format.
I haven't offended her too much so far.
Oh,
You
wow.
did good.
That-
You were
that's
so good.
that's a rarity, Dawn.
Oh,
I
ah,
hope
What-
she comes
what-
back
Yeah.
today.
If she comes back, I'll come back.
I'm coming
bored.
back.
I'm bored with you guys.
I loved how the conversation just flowed. It just, we just started talking. I don't even know if I think you said the word love, but it just flowed into, I loved it. It was it's wonderful.
Yes, Dominic requested a topic on love, and I really love it so far. All you need is love.
All you
What
need
the
is
world
love.
needs now is love, sweet love. Can't buy me love.
Oh
Money
gosh.
can't buy me love. Yes, I was watching Paul McCartney being interviewed, and he's saying that wow, he's proud of about the Beatles is that they brought out positive things for society, like when they went to India and got the mantra from the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and all that, and so it brought a lot of interest in that, and so a lot of love and meditation and things like that. Now it's like mainstream.
So where's the negative side of that, Jarrell? You said positive, so Paul McCartney, yip yapping about things. Again, the question is, what is love?
What
People
is
are
love?
perceiving what it
Don't
is.
hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Mhm,
What
that's
is love?
Black Eyed Peas, yes, I get that.
Oh,
But what is it? We say the word, is love positive?
oh,
Is love negative?
It's
oh,
both.
It could be, and a valid point, it could be, it's kind of like a card. Does a card need positive and negative? Does the sun and moon
Oh,
have to
maybe.
exist? Mhm.
positive as it takes you closer and closer to the light.
Well,
Makes you an
it's
ascended
relative.
master.
But it's relative because it was interesting that you brought that up because overnight, I was, I guess, thinking on this or meditating on it. And when I woke in the middle of the night, the thought was already there. And it was about the fact that to one person, an action that is perceived by some, I would say, as loving, to another group, it's not loving. And that's why you have that disparity, because someone will say, oh, look, they're helping this homeless person. That's the right thing to do. That's love. While another will say, oh, you're allowing this person to continue to be homeless as opposed to allowing them to get themselves out of it. That's not love. So I think it really is relative to each person's perception.
As Don, in that instance, as the two people are talking, the parent talking with each other, what they think is best for the homeless person, the child, are they actually considering the person that they're using as the typification? They're probably not. So there's their person's likes or dislikes, where should we not ask that homeless person your story? Well, Dom, I don't think you'll be able to grasp my story, but I'll try my best. I choose to refrain from being caught up as the sheeple of the rest of people. So then who really is homeless then? Again, love is all encompassing. The fact that we describe from within it is like us trying to say, from within the box, I see the box. It's a game that we play with ourselves. And what we can discuss is our perceptions of it. Even when you say the word relative, that's a nice word that people use. That's how people use when they're talking about flat earth or global, whatever, it's relative. I said, that's a cheap cop out. I'm not saying that you're using it, but this is a belief system. We say things, we say the word relative, we say the word love because it's a meaningful language. So do I really understand what love is? No, you don't, Dom. But you've had moments of experiencing it. Oh, so it's not something I can really describe. You could try. You know, so again, this is where it goes back to somebody says, well, Dominic, I see a homeless person. Okay, well, I don't see a homeless person. What do you mean? I see a person that's in a house that can't even afford it. They're homeless. What do you mean? They're so indebted that they're in a shelter, but they're still homeless. What do you mean? If people value the concept of owning things, well, then that person's homeless. And what do you mean? They don't own the house. Now, that's a play on words. I get it. Once again, is what is love? I can deduce what it isn't. So that's why people seek. It's like looking for the fountain of youth. What is the fountain of youth? They'll probably experience a whole bunch of people. So you just lived 100 years. Well, you don't have the fountain of youth. You lived 120 years. You didn't have the fountain of youth. But then what happened when some people start breaking it down and say, but I lived a healthy life and I only lived 60 years. Is that the fountain of youth? Could be. I'm speculating on everything. Is when we narrow it down and we say things. Think about when you went to, they were just beating on the door, seeing if you're going to bite in a club. And that's what it is. This is where people realize, oh, I've already been in a belief system. I just don't want to convert to more of them if I don't have to. You know, I get it. We play this game, you know, love is when I love my wife. I said, is it really love? What do you mean? Well, does a person care about you when they're trying to hurt you? More times than not, they are caring about you. Why? Because they want to know your weaknesses and strengths. What most people are indifference with each other. Well, I don't care about Dawn. I don't know who she is. Well, how would you get to know her? By talking to her, picking up the energy, asking some questions. You know, but am I asking questions knowing I already have the answer? Well, then I'm not really asking questions then, am I?
Mm,
I'm being clever at that point.
wow.
That's a sales pitch.
Mm,
Because we do sell. You know, people say, well, yeah, but I don't consume things. I say, yes, you do. Well, I don't read books. I say, yes, you do. You eat food, don't you? You absorb the sun, don't you? Yes. Well, then don't say those short, unaware things. No, I'm just using words to play games here now, but you know,
Don,
yes.
what did you have for breakfast this morning?
What did I have for breakfast? Oh, you talking to me or Joel? Sorry.
Oh, the DAWN. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I've had coffee so far, so I drank my electrolytes, fresh lime juice, and
Wow.
Himalayan salt, and then I had my coffee so far.
I should do something like that. That's probably good for shedding weight.
Well, I was going to comment real quick on what Don was saying and about love and relativity. Just briefly, I was going to say the reason I refer to it as being relative is because everybody has their own perspective on these terms, these words that we use. When you delve deeper, like Dominic was saying, then yes, you can realize a different perspective. And I saw that Joel put on there a meaning of love, and it's describing what it is and is not. And so I feel like all is correct. The answer is yes to everything. And I like also, Dom, what you were saying about, you know, my experience with belief systems, how I noticed or picked up on these patterns, and my decision to not participate in belief systems anymore because it's a controlling mechanism for me. But someone else's choice to participate in that is not wrong because it's right for them on their journey. So, and then lastly, Gyro, I don't believe you're fatty, boombalatti. You're great, and you should not but pick on yourself like that. So maybe one day I'll come down to meet you in person so I can poke you in your tummy and tell you you're not a fatty. So stop it.
Thank you. Yes, we'll meet in person. Maybe I could create or schedule a meet on Meetup. I've had two. If I could create one, another two. I could schedule one maybe once a month to meet at some Panera or something in Orlando or something, or maybe to make it closer to folks living in your area, somewhere up in Sanford or something. So I have to drive.
Can I interject a second, Cheryl? Is the world that we call it outside of just humans, is the world beautiful? Some people would say yes. Okay, so is the world beautiful because there's hurricanes? Well, yes. What about volcanoes? Yes. What about forest fires? Yes. So when I heard Joel say that, he's already talking from a conditioned program, thinking that it's right, and I don't use the word wrong, left, a direction. So now, is love also envy? Yes. Is it boastful? Yes. Love is all encompassing. We're just experiencing each of those things within it. This is how we cherry pick.
Oh, so you're saying that when it's stated like love is this, love is not that, then that limits it to it not being the opposite of those things. That love should be unlimited, and it should include everything, even
It is
hateful.
everything, Gerald. You know what people are doing? When they say love is kind, love does not envy or both. What you're doing is you're reinforcing attachments and trying to resist other things. See, most people are the concept of suffering is their attachments, not their resistance. They want more of that, less of that, opposed to allow yourself to be the observer of polarities. This is why when people say, I want to be more happy, I said, okay, so let me see. Happiness is positive. And I take them for a walk and I show them a car. You see that car there? It was designed a certain way. There's polarities, positive and negative, and then the grounding called earth. Which one would I have to pull away from it for no longer to be a car? That's a child's explanation. Yeah, but that's not what I mean. I said, then what do you mean? If they're true with themselves, they're being honest. You're trying to be a drug addict. You want to be happy all the time. Then go try to explain to a person that just lost their child, they want to be sad all the time. Would you want to change them? No. So be the observer. People can't do the 5 stages of grieving if they've never been angry. They can't do the 5 stages if they've never grieved. This is where humanity have been conditioned to be like little babies, children, as I call them. Because a baby at least needs to be dependent on you. A child is usually the one that has to develop their feelings. So now when you think love is only about one and none of that, it'll be like me telling Dawn or somebody else, well, that person's really cruel. Oh, okay. How would Dawn feel if somebody was trying to force Dawn to be cruel? She probably wouldn't like it. So then why would we try to be kind to somebody else by asking them to change? Be you, whatever that may be to you. That is what you're within, what's called love. It's all encompassing.
DAWN. What caused you to select the dog in the dog store? What attracted you? Was there a love there involved?
A force brought us together, because actually at the time, something leading up to us finding each other, something was making me feel like I wanted a companion. But at the same time, I was having thoughts that said, I can barely take care of myself, because all I was doing was working. And I was trying to change that pattern of working, and not giving love to myself. I'd just come out of a very traumatic experience in 2021. So in July, actually in June of 22, I saw someone posted in a Citrus County Facebook page that they had these brand new puppies. So I messaged the person. I said, I'd like to schedule a time to come out and meet them and see which one is attracted to me. And the person said, oh, they'll be sold. People buy these dogs unseen. And I said, okay, thanks anyway. The next day, the person sent me a picture of this dog, Evie, and said, but we have this one. She's 1 year old, And you can purchase this one. It's a mini Labradoodle. And I said, wow. I said, she's beautiful. May I come and visit and see if we're a match? And to my shock, I've never had a dog. This is my second dog in my life. I've never had a dog this big. I went out and this dog was immediately attached to me. I can't describe it. And when I went to pick her up, which was just a few weeks later, I came to pick her up and bring her home. She was ready. She was ready to go. And the owners were surprised as well that this dog was immediately attracted. So we were meant to be together. It was definitely an energy between us. And I purchased her from a breeder.
Nice. Well done, John.
What did you call a miniature, or what was the type of dog is it called?
She's a Labradoodle, a poodle.
Labradoodle.
Yeah, she's a
Oh,
Labradoodle, but a mini one. So
Extra
she's not going to get any bigger than this. But a regular Labradoodle, from what I understand, is massive. So.
But it's still pretty big. Like it can hug you, right?
He sits on me and I'm pinned. So like, as you saw, she was over here trying to take control of me.
Labradoodle.
Well, we know you well enough, Don. Well, at least better now. What is the cutie's name?
Her name is Evie.
Evie, nice name.
E-V-I-E.
Nice,
Thank
nice name, Evie.
Thank you.
So we don't have to say dog anymore. We'll just say Evie.
Evie, yes.
So it was when Evie first saw you, what did she do?
She ran to me like she knew me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even, they brought her out. They put a chair for me to sit outside. It was a huge farm, kind of a space. And they put a chair for me to sit on and they brought her out and she came running to me like she knew me and jumped on me and started licking me and sat next to me. And they gave me some toys to play with her. I was there for about 45 minutes. And then when they tried to take her away, she didn't want to leave. I was just overwhelmed. The energy I was feeling, I'd never experienced anything like that before in my life. I said, sold, I'll come and get her in a few weeks.
I'm gonna ask you something. You don't have to share if you don't want to. During that time prior to having her, did you lose somebody?
No.
Okay, good enough. I'm just wondering because sometimes people recall the whole concept of an Indian child, remember where they were born and all that kind of stuff. Well, we forget animals allow spirits to stay with them too, right? So.
Well, someone did tell me that she's my familiar, and that was my first time hearing that word. So I'm still trying to understand that concept, but it's just words.
Yeah, they are words. You're probably, I get the impression you're more of an energy person, where people call them Damians or whatever they're called.
I've heard that. It's spelled D-A-I-M-O-N. Oh, and that was mentioned. Oh, I was in the Theosophy meetup with Jonathan, I think it was, and someone had shared an image of a book and or a cover of a book or some quote, and I was reading it. I said, and it said something like terrestrial daemons. They had like 3 things that you should honor or do, and the third one or the last one, or out of 3 or 4, said something like we should kind of try to have a good relationship with terrestrial daemons or something like that.
There's a TV
guardian angels or something.
Yeah, there's a TV series that kind of taps in a little bit on that concept, The Dark Material. This TV series called Dark Material. They talk about that most beings have it designed, and they use like an animal force. They depict it actually. They literally have it, and as children get older, they transfer, right? So we really don't know the whole purpose of what these animals that choose to live with us. Think of Egypt times. They used to have a lot of cats with them. Cats are very wild still in their nature. Dogs, unfortunately, have been so domestic that for them to be wild, it takes a reconditioning again. But you put a cat out, even though it's been domestic, it still knows to attack a bird and all that kind of stuff. And those are just 2 animals. Can you imagine it? The people that choose to have like, more wild animals like snakes and all that kind of stuff as pets, or flying squirrels.
And Interesting as well that you mentioned that about Egypt, because this week these thoughts were coming, and this thought about how supposedly they'd uncovered these burials where it was with a person and an animal, always like that was how they did it. They buried with the animal in the past. So I was thinking about that, and why? What was the purpose of that? Why did they do that?
I think part and parcel, Don, is even like in the Hindu culture, it was kind of, in our perception, it might be hideous, where when people die, even the Asians did it, they figured whatever they own dies with them. Because they figured, well, who's going to take care of the animal when I'm dead? So that animal's forced to die. Think about it's a practice they used to do with India, where young girls were forced to marry old men. And they were told that, and usually the age would be 30 or 40, 50 years, and they would trade each other as stocks. So then they would say, well, when he dies, you die with him. So that would force women to treat their elderly men with all this kind of love, because they figured if he goes, I got to go with him. So, and we just forget that a lot of those reasons why they do what they do is for possession purposes. The animal probably didn't want to die. But
Did
at
I
the same,
hear the word Egypt? Egypt
yes.
from Don? Look, I obtained this wonderful book on
Nice.
Egyptology. It's called. Oh, it's wonderful. It's got beautiful pictures. I like pictures.
Mm.
And what are you eating, Joel?
Is it rude for me to eat, guys?
No, just tell us what you're eating.
I'm having raspberry sesame bread toasted and a fried egg. And the coffee is brewing.
I want a plate.
Mm.
Maybe you can email it to us. Wow.
So where did you come from to go to Florida, Dawn? You mentioned that when I came to Florida.
So actually, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And then at 14 years old, I moved to Hawaii to live with my dad.
Wow.
And I lived there for over 22 years. And in 2006, I was married. I came and had children. I'd started my business in Hawaii. So I call Hawaii home today. And in 2006, I came back to the mainland. I was married. And that marriage, subsequently dissolved. I was in Indiana, which is where my husband was from. That marriage dissolved, and I came to Virginia in 2008. And I was in Virginia for 11 years, which is my father's from Virginia. And just so happened, I in 2019, in August, there was this strong urge to get to the ocean. That's what it felt like. It's like, I want to reconnect with the ocean. And I have a friend that I'd known him since I was in Indiana, and he was living in Florida. And he said, I told you to try Florida. It's not Hawaii, but it's closer. You're closer to Florida than you are Hawaii. So I came here. I had an instant reaction that was, I'm going to come here. I literally packed up enough for 2 months, came here on a 2-month vacation, and got bored and got a job. Pandemic hit. I was forced to stay here. So I had to, I got a job. I was here on vacation, ended up with a job. I was actually working in Tampa, and that company I was working for brought me to Citrus County. I didn't even know this place existed. And just before the pandemic hit, to take over an office here. And now I see it as, for me, this pattern was something that brought me here. There was something I had to do. I believe I've completed that task. That was what happened to me in 2021. And since then, there's been this massive amount of healing that's been happening to me as what I call a part of my awakening process, my letting go of what is not real, and
Wow.
accepting what is, and allowing the universe to operate through me as it has been, but without the resistance that I have been creating, the chaos I've been creating in my own life. And all I can tell you is that I am only here because there is this force that brought me here and has provided me with this life, this lifestyle, this dog, and everything. And it's a blessing.
Did you grow up until becoming a teenager in Baltimore or what? Something like that?
At 14, I moved to Hawaii. So I did
Wow.
yeah, up until 14, I was there in Baltimore, but I was always different. I'm a nerd. They had me in a gifted and talented program. I was always
Wow.
advanced. There's always been something different about me, but it was never appreciated. And I was taught never to look at it because that would be selfish. And
Wow.
yeah,
That Baltimore, Maryland, that's like next to Washington, D.C. That
yes.
must be a pretty exciting area.
It wasn't for me. I had a very difficult, I would not, that's why I don't call Baltimore home, because all I have there is hurt from that place. But
Yeah.
to your question, Dominic, the healing from what did you say?
I'm just asking, do you think some of the healing is just only in this lifespan or previous ones?
I'm just getting to allow that concept of multiple lifespans. And from young, I was told, you're an old soul. I had no idea what that was. But that's been swirling around in my meditations recently as well. So to be honest, it feels like there's a continuation.
Mm.
That's what it feels like. It feels like this is not new. It's like it picked up from, once I became aware, it feels like it picked up from where it last stopped off, and it's continuing. That's the only way I can describe it.
Because we reconnect with certain souls in forms of there are children or there are husbands or wives. Either we learn from them or we continue. And then what we do is then we move on to other learning curves in our lifespans. It sounds like you've had many experiences already in such a large lifespans. Home is always you, whoever you are. You're that point of view. Think about the term point of view. When you look at a clock, are you all those numbers or are you the one that's in the middle? This is why we have points of views. That's all we do. No matter where you are, you're there. You're looking at the ocean from where you are. You're looking at the snow from where you are. This is why we use those words, points of views.
What was the change like from going to dreary, painful Baltimore to wonderful Hawaii? Beautiful Hawaii.
Shocking. And let me tell you something. I don't know. I have some connection to the Asian culture. It feels like home to me for some reason. It's like normal. So when I came back to the mainland and then went back home, I went back home in 2013. I remember stepping off the plane. I was like, oh, my people. It just felt like, oh, I'm home. I didn't want to leave. I had to come back, but I didn't want to leave. It just, so what I'm trying to say to you is that there's an energy there in Hawaii, and I can feel it. I can feel it I guess not everybody can feel that, but I can feel it on my skin. It's a healing effect.
But what did you call home? And what you said, mainland? Mainland?
Oh, the mainland of the USA, the main part of the USA, and Hawaii
Indiana?
is
Was that Indiana or Virginia?
Baltimore is what my home was, but where I was born. But what I call home today is Hawaii, and what I'm describing as having
so
a
when you
healing
went back
effect.
to Hawaii, you said,
Yes.
"Oh, I'm home."
I'm home. No, there's no question about it. I'm home. And, so I would definitely go back there to live and work. There's an energy
Wow.
there. It's the healing effect. And
What,
some
like,
people look at
have you heard
me
of
and they,
have
Mhm.
you heard of the word Ho'oponopono?
Ho'oponopono, yes, it's a part of the culture.
What is
Wow,
that?
it's
Uh-huh.
wonderful.
What is
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono?
That's what my sister discovered, and that's helped her with her cancer. She had stage 4 or 5 cancer, and other things. Well, she heard about Ho'oponopono some years ago, and I try it too. Like when you lose your keys, you think of say that those basic ideas of Ho'oponopono, that you kind of say to yourself, I love yourself, and you forgive yourself and also others and things like that, and that helps you find your lost keys and things like that.
Mantra, Jaro, is it like a mantra of some sort? I'm not
Yes,
sure. Is it?
it's like a mantra, but you unpack it, and you can say what it means in English, and then it just unpacks into lots of teachings. And the guy that updated it was this doctor, and he was assigned to a ward of people that were really sick, and then after a year or so there, everybody got healed. And what he did was he worked on himself, and then by going there, just being happier, it kind of caught on, and it healed everybody else, I guess, is what I could think about it.
So how
I
much
was
is,
going to look up the meaning and paste it here, but I know everybody could do that. But I was going to say from my own words that it is a flow. It is an energy of acceptance and allowance. There's a local saying that's no make waves, no make waves. It means don't create problems, don't cause chaos, no make waves. Allow, it's be like water.
be
And
the observer? Be the observer.
basically be the observer. So you can see how there's so many different words, depending on your perspective,
Mhm.
to describe the exact same experience. But I'm not saying that there's no problems there. Hawaii has a lot of problems, just like all over the world. But the main energy of that place is unbelievable. And so I feel like it's within me, it's within me. So I brought that energy with me, and I believe that's the work that I was supposed to do here. And that's what I'm doing.
Sounds like Jaro, Hobo, kind of like the flow of energies, like Reiki, where you're transferring energy or you're allowing energy. It's like damming up a well. Like that problem that you're talking about, Don. The world's it's going to exist with or without us. The problem that we have is that through our own perception, but we're also being bombarded because we're receivers. We've introduced things like radio frequency, Wi-Fi, and electricity. So that does affect the vessel that we're in. So it's kind of like me talking to you, Don, with a broken down receiver, and I can barely hear you. There is an irritation in that. So the healing that there's also values, obviously, when you go to a place like Hawaii, there's certain kinds of ancestors, landmass there that plays a role in all that. That's why when people say I'm home, not on the physical, but on the being part. Now, whether or not science or religion or state ever taps into that, that's again, belief system is, oh, I can't believe in that, or I believe in that. I said, drop beliefs altogether and become the observer of those things. Like Joe, you posted something. I heard the constant word everything. Where's the essence to things? Because you don't see the words that you give what we call things. You don't see tree. You see the material, but you don't see when you describe it. So until you become aware of that, this is where part of the healing comes in. Some people, they come back as shamans or healers because in a previous life, they were a warrior. They were a foot soldier. They killed another human being, like either in the acting realm or they deceived another human being. Think about a lot of people that join those clubs, Don, they're going to have to come back again. Why? Because whether you do it out of night, it's like me telling a police officer, well, I didn't know the speed limit here. It doesn't matter, son. Ignorant doesn't count. You're still getting a ticket. It's the same in the world. Whether or not you're aware that you're harming another human being, it's not even a human being. You're you're harming whoever anchors this realm. Now, a person who said, but I don't agree with the rulers of this realm. I said, you're still harming it. You know, we're here to participate in it.
Maybe
Was
next.
anyone else here this morning? Did Mike come, or Rami, or
No,
David
No.
Taylor, or
no, just us, Joel.
I must have scared Rami away somehow.
yeah?
But I sent a message to everyone uh, through email to the bunch saying that today's topic would be love. All you need is love. I love it. But then we have to think about it. What is love? Like love is this, love is not that. Then that could limit it. What does it mean to say love thy enemies?
All words limit the true reality. You
Mhm.
can't describe it with words effectively, but we try.
Yes, we do,
Oh.
Don. We do try. We always try. And even that, we have to determine after that, well, if we're describing it, why limit it just to one language then? You know, why don't we speak it in?
What about instead of using the word love, use the negative and then negate it. So
There's an opposite.
non-violence, that could be what could be a way to define love, or not define it, but maybe give us an idea of what we should strive for: non-violence, non-harm.
Okay, so Jared, you talked to
As in, I'm going to strive to avoid that kind of activity and and do the other.
okay, so you talk to a person that says, I really love combating to combat. Are you gonna denounce him because he
Martial
uses, but
Learn how to
are
kill
you
somebody real quick.
are you gonna denounce the
Yeah.
fact that he chooses to use the word love? It's like somebody says, I love to be in the military. Why? There's the potential to kill. I love to have a child. There's a potential to love, to be kind to them. This is where people don't realize how much they've allowed they've judged already with their likes and dislikes with never questioning it. That person's saying the word, I'm the observer, but they're not being the observer. So in that particular case, you're thinking there's an opposite. You've already played the game of right and wrong, opposed to right and left direction. Use your hemispheres. Be the observer. Who am I to say to another person that chooses to use the word love? I'm saying the word, who am I? There's the question I just put out there, because a person would have to know who they are before they can see another person. So until then, the word love is all encompassing. It's a word that I use. You could say prana is all encompasses, air is all encompasses. But when somebody says, I love my child, they've stepped down and they've chosen to direct where the observer would say, if love is all encompassing, what are the parts? That's obligation and duty. Now somebody else said, but he was kind to another child. That's being kind. It's all encompassing. But we, within the box, are trying to divide it. Well, I can't see the box, so what I'll do is I'll put this wall up, and now I have two versions of it. That's under the assumption you know what the box looks like from the outside. It's a guessing game. This is where the fool in the tarot comes in. You're the seeker. Not to say I'm going to forget the answers, just because I use a whole bunch of words. Oh, somebody's hands up. Sorry, Jared. Go ahead, my friend.
Oh, may I share
Always.
the 3 kinds of love? There's affectionate love.
Okay.
That's like, oh, there's Evie for the first time. Oh, isn't she lovely? And then there's
Romantic.
there's giving love.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like, oh, I'll give, or I want to give happiness to Evie. Give her food. And there's wishing love. Oh, I wish that Evie be always happy. I think those are the 3 kinds. I'll look it up. in my huge library of all kinds of metaphysical books. Let's see, maybe it's in this book.
Yeah, there's a giver, Gerald. There's also the receiver within the giver. You know, it's like I've had that conversation with my mom where she really loves to give. I said, Mom, but you have a tough time receiving. So how are you going to appreciate the people that you give to? She looked at me and said, Mom, I just shared something with you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I stand corrected.
That's
There
fine.
is affectionate love, cherishing love, and wishing love. So cherish, what does cherish mean? When you cherish someone, you
You favor them.
you cherish their presence.
Appreciate, maybe
Appreciate
appreciate, I
love.
don't know, but you know, it, my usage of appreciate might be different from someone else's.
Mhm. Yeah. Again, Don, we're using an English language, has many meanings to it. Again, we already have our own perceptions, but then we put in the language, which gives even another perception. It's like it's kind of the Chinese doll, or is it Chinese or Russian doll within the Russian doll, but then there's even parts within the Russian dolls. The fact that we're describing is another version of it. And this is where we make this almost like an arrogant wordage, but they're not. It's when people start defending it or attacking it, it makes it even more humorous. You know, Joe, me, we've been in groups before where I don't know how Joe feels about this, where people will philosophize. I said, you're not philosophizing when you're just using the name Socrates. That's not philosophizing. Philosophizing is through your own observation and you ask the many whys. But most people say, but I went to university and I got a degree in philosophy. I said, that's not philosophizing. That just means you got a degree. The English language has 5 degrees in it. What do you mean? Well, if you read it, that's 1 degree. If you speak it, that's another degree. If you know how to write it, is another degree. If you know you how to have thoughts. Think about that, guys. We have thoughts. Do we all have thoughts in the same language that we speak? A person can speak French, but not have the thought in French. Or they know, like me, I know how to, I can hear the word Italian, but I don't know how to write or read it in Italian. Maybe elaborate, Jaro, if you found out what the meaning of cherish is.
When Dawn first appeared, she was talking about belief systems, and why is it that we're told to think of others, and couldn't that lead to causing us to abandon our own needs or something like that? Do you remember that, Don? What did you do you recall that?
Yes, what I was referring to was about how I feel like I've learned that you cannot give what you do not have. But and so I'm at that point of learning and am experiencing loving myself, what that really is, what it feels like. Which means that I have to let go of the belief program in me that looks or views loving just the words loving yourself as a bad thing, that it is selfish. You know, you have to put everyone else first and yourself last. But it's just words, and it's somebody else's perception of those words that they were programming me with, and I've been carrying that baggage my whole life. Now that I am letting go of those words and what I believed the meaning was, I now realize that I can only love if I love myself.
Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. And because I was trying to an hour or so ago, I was trying to bring up something that I heard on a YouTube channel, and is mentioning the person is an expert on compassion, and he's one of those monks that the Dalai Lama offered this research institute to hook him up to lots of wires, and they were asking him, okay, get into meditation. and let's see what's happening in the brain. Oh, look, alpha waves. Oh, beta waves. Oh, this, and then I say, what's going on? How come your brain is not functioning like the rest of us? It's very calm and all this. And he said, oh, I'm meditating on compassion. And I said, what? What is compassion? And so he's an expert on compassion. He wrote a book on that, on altruism. And so and he was mentioning that about compassion fatigue. Have you ever heard of the word compassion fatigue?
Nope. You're being drained by other people's energy.
Oh, like people that are in the healthcare industry, that they have to give of themselves so much that they end up having burnout. Maybe that's having compassion fatigue.
Compassion, Jaro, for more people, believe it or not, is to be compassionate that other people are always going to be ignorant in the human state. So an example is, when you love thy neighbor, that's you. I've said it earlier. You've never left the vessel. There is few people that can do it, but the majority of the people, they've never left the vessel. So when we give too much of ourselves, when it shows that I really can't give you me, I can share you me, but I can't give you me. So now in this particular case, the person that you love the most is the person that's designed within you. When the student is ready, there's many teachers, but not in the physical realm. So now people that are compassionate, when they get into that silent state, which means peace, you realize, I don't live in the outside world. I live from within. Chujo. So
Evie.
So Jaro,
What's the doggy's name?
Evie, I think
Evie.
she's jealous of my time on this because see what she's doing. She's trying to even block my view. She can become controlling. That's what now she's licking me to death. And I told her I don't want to be licked.
Evie looks over here. Hi, Evie. Can she see the screen? I guess it's only gray for her.
No, oh really? I did not know that for dogs.
Yeah.
But yes, you can see the screen. She's not one of those dogs who's even interested in these devices. I've tried, and I try to show her something. If she hears a dog barking on a video, she'll come over, and as soon as I show her the screen, she turns away. She's not interested. So she's a very interesting dog. See, you made her look.
Hey, Evie, made you look.
Interesting. She just came over here and got herself in between me and this device. That's what she does.
She keeps looking over. She's not sure what to make of this.
Yeah.
But you're just on a phone, right? So it's very small. It's hard for her to see, I think.
Mm,
And
gotcha.
they rely more on their sense of smell, and I suppose there's nothing different there. So
right.
she's not seeing the differences.
But she knows that my attention is there. And so this is what she does. Even on any Zoom call or whatever I'm on, I always sit here and I look at this device, and eventually she'll come over and she will insert herself in between me and it. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But you know what? Don't we do that? We humans do that too.
Mhm.
We do that.
Maybe.
Well, it'd be no different if we didn't have the advent of wireless devices and headphones and all that. Some people would depicate somebody else that they're schizophrenic. Who are you talking to?
Mhm.
You know, but meanwhile, there is people out there saying, no, I'm talking to the unknown plane. But most people have been so conditioned that they can only see the material, but yet never question where the words that you're speaking. That's the irony behind it all. As much as people want to think that, oh, well, Dominic, I'm aware, or I'm using common sense. Listen to the word common sense. The senses are easy to be misled. You know, it's like me and Joel or Don or whatever. Joel, when you're hearing me, who's running your body? That's a simple inquiry. And if you know enough to realize, I don't know. I said, there's your journey now. What do you mean? Because the ego thinks it runs the body. I said, well, then who runs it when you're asleep? Who runs it when you're in a coma? We never
Well-
get to that awareness, but we think that some men are going to teach something about university where that's actually a dumbed down schooling system. Now, when I
What-
say dumbed down, I'm talking about a photocopy version.
What
was-
is it? What is it that we all do, Don? What you saying? We all do that. Is that like being jealous of or not getting attention? So like our loved one is getting distracted, so we try to get their attention. Is that a form of jealousy?
I think so. I think it would be. At one point, I also meditated on this concept as I was trying to understand what she was doing. Was it that she was jealous? Or could it be that she was trying to protect me? Because I wondered how she perceived this device. Does she see energy? Does she feel the vibrations? And could she sense that maybe this is not good for me? And so was she trying to protect me from it just by saying that's enough? Leave that alone? I don't know.
She's probably reading your energy, not the technology called computer. You know, we're around other energies. So a person that goes into some elusive state, another person that's their gift, we'll say, can read their energy. So a dog, like a cat knows when certain cats, not all cats, certain cats knows when a person's about to pass on because it's reading another energy, some other energies in the present of that room.
Mm.
We just don't see it. It's like when a person is around certain electricity, some people, their hairs will go on up, whatever. We all think we have that ability. We don't. You know, I could say I know how to run, but I can't run like Usain Bolt. What I can do is appreciate his craft by being the observer and then observe from within. So your dog probably Evie hears your voice, but she doesn't see who you're talking to, but she's probably not picking that up anyway. It's like when supposedly we've discovered that dogs can only see shades. Again, most of us would never come to that awareness. The few that do, the rest of us, we can only believe. What do you mean? Because I don't see it. I didn't examine that. That's where belief systems are. Now, somebody can show me some guy that's a scientist and that. I said, okay, now I know, but I don't have discernment. How would I know the difference? So this is where, you know, like some animals, they can come back and find whoever was their, we'll say, owners after 6 or 7 years. Not all animals can do that. No different. Some people can go into somebody's house and pick up energetically. There's too much of one polarity opposed to another polarity. They'll call it negative, but it's just a different polarity.
Oh, I got an idea.
Sure.
I'm gonna call Luis Del Pino. See what's he up to, and see if I can get him to.
I don't hear you, Joel. You're saying something, but you're
Yeah,
muted.
sorry, Joel. Go. Yeah, you're muted, Joel.
Yeah, we haven't seen Dr. Del Pino in years. What's happened to him?
He's doing his own thing, guys. He's doing.
Oh,
I think
call
he's
him.
No,
And
he's
what-
he's too busy with the funeral business
Why has he abandoned us? Oh,
because he's
we will
cremating
never.
in such volume.
We will never become enlightened without his knowledge of ones and zeros.
Maybe. Or maybe he already shared what he had to share and he learned what he'd learned, and the rest of you is for you to grasp it. You know, it's
He gave up on us. He
no,
said, these
no.
guys never learn anything.
Gerald, nobody can give up on you. The only person that can give up on yourself. Don't expect other people externally to actually help you. If not, then you're following another dogma. Oh, the government. No, that's not their role to rule over you. That's you have your own kingdom.
Please
Go ahead.
wake up and join us as we meditate on love. All you need is love. Okay, we're at Wake Up and Think Clearly. Zoom ID 407-486-8642. 486-8642. No passcode needed. Thank you. Bye. I left a message. But he promptly calls back.
You might. You might.
His answering machine message on his phone says, "Hi, this is Luis Del Pino from U.S. Cremations. His company makes cremation machines. They're only $80,000. Do you want
Mhm.
one?
Well, we live in a realm that
Information business.
you
Just
live in a,
When we go into nuclear war, we'll have great business getting rid of all these bodies
maybe,
with cremation machines.
but we do live in a realm, Jaro, that we have to pay to be born, pay to die. We get these things called passports, or in this case, birth certificate. We're all being tagged in the vessel. This goes back to the metaphor that I gave you. Do you peg down the mother elephant or do you peg down the child? Most people get attached to their names. That's how you peg people down, with attachments. It's like when people talk about addictions. It's not addiction, they're attachments. People that are attached to alcohol, because that's usually indication with anger. People smoking is grieving. People that do elusive drugs, they're trying to escape something, opposed to being aware of some things.
Joel,
Mhm.
what is a certified Vinci officiant and how can I become one? And what is the starting salary? Like 100,000 a year or what?
It all depends on how many people play Vinci competitively in your area.
Mm,
So, Hiro, you have the unique distinction of having the oldest person who could still play Vinci, your mother. I have yet to play with anyone else who is 99 years old, or had she just turned 100.
so in April of last year, she became a centenarian or something like that, 100 years old.
And she could still play Vinci. That was really, she never played against Dominic's cat, though. I mean, that would be, serious competition, but she still played it. No one older has ever played it that I know of.
Mm,
What is Vinci?
It's
Good
a game that exercises and judges what kind of fluid intellect you may have in part, and your ability to recognize shape. It's I don't know how to describe it. A guy from a Texas group came in, and he nailed it right away. He really seemed to know all about it. Have you heard of Raven's progressive matrices or Raven's matrices? So it's a test that's been used in psychology since 1936. It's still used today. Basically, getting a sense of how fluid your mind is to adapt and recognize shapes and patterns. So this doesn't test that. This only, you would have to have a certain amount of mental fluidity to be able to play this. Usually children under the age of about 5 don't have enough capacity yet. And we don't allow people over age 100 unless they have parental consent, because if it gets too competitive, we don't want anybody hurting themselves. That's one of your roles as a Vinci officiant.
parental consent for my mother. She's already past 100, but her mother is if she would be alive, she'd be 150 years old. Or something like that.
Your mother was born when your grandmother was 50 years old?
Or maybe 140, maybe 140 years old.
Yeah.
If my grandmother was still alive.
Yeah.
So,
Good gene.
how could she get parental consent? Or maybe what's
that would be up to the officiant at the game to decide whether he will waive that rule, or in lieu of that, if he will accept an offspring's consent.
Guardian consent or power of attorney consent.
Yeah, that would probably do.
Okay, so I'll go visit my mother today.
Good. Give her my regards, Hiro, and remind her that she's thus far the oldest woman to play Vinci anywhere on the planet.
Is Hiroshi the first and person to play Vinci and in person with the author of Vinci?
Yes, he's the first person in Japan to play it in person.
Wow, what an honor. That's a historic moment.
It was, and it was in the lobby of the Ueno Hotel.
In Tokyo?
Yes,
Is that where you stayed?
yes,
Ueno?
yeah. U
How's that spelled?
Ueno.
Ueno. Ueno. Wow. Is that a Japanese word?
It's the name of a station in Tokyo. It's both a train station and a here I can show you the map of where it is.
Wow. We're
There's
in Tokyo.
there's the map of Tokyo, and it's right near, if you saw that movie, The Last Samurai,
Hmm.
the actual site of the battle that is portrayed in the last scenes of that movie took place in this park close by.
Wow. What's it like? What's it like to have been born in Japan? Oh, and look at those samurais.
No, those aren't samurai, those are sumo.
Oh, yes, that's right. Wow. Don, what did you encounter some Japanese culture but mixed in Hawaiian people in Hawaii?
Absolutely. And by far, I am attracted to the Japanese culture. And when you had those sumo, I recognized right away because Hawaii has three very popular, there's a song about them written by Israel Kamakawiwo'ole. So I'm very much attached to that culture. I've never been to Japan, but it's definitely a place I want to go to. And I might stay if I go. So we'll see.
Yeah, Japan is quite an amazing place. I got to tell you, I've done a little bit of traveling in my life, but nothing was like Japan. And the Hawaiian Yokozuna, I may not be pronouncing this right, but the basically the grand champion, there was one from Hawaii, I believe. And yeah,
There's three of them, Akebono, Musashi Maru, and Konishiki.
wow,
And Israel Kamakawiwo'ole wrote a song about it. It's a fun song.
wow. Are they still living?
All of them are, yes. They're
Holy-
local boys. They're local Hawaii boys, but they have Japanese in them. So
Yeah.
they became sumo, and of course they're champions to the Hawaiian culture. So
But were they the actual Japanese national champions or just champions to Hawaii?
they became champions in Japan as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mhm.
I've been to two sumo tournaments, one in Tokyo and one in a city called Fukuoka, which is right in the southern tip of Japan. And I don't understand it all because I don't speak Japanese and I couldn't find anybody who spoke English well enough to explain the fine points. But it's an amazing, I don't know if you call it a sport or a ritual or a religion. It's a little bit of all of them, and very, very interesting. I find it. In fact, I sometimes say that Vinci is mental sumo because there is only one winner. It's relatively quick. It's not as quick as a sumo match, but it's really interesting. If I could ever get those three Hawaiian sumo guys to have a game together, oh, that would be awesome. That would really be awesome.
Wow. I don't know.
Could you imagine these three giant guys around a little tiny board placing their
What?
pieces?
What
That
are the basic movements on the board? And what is the basic strategy?
the strategy is to win.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, then how does one win?
Well, you win by placing your pieces on the board. I don't know if these patterns on the bottom are visible. If you can spotlight that, Jairo.
Well, the letters that say Joel CVO certified Vinci efficient and the background kind of hide it, and your shoulders do too.
Let me move out of the way. So if you can see those three basic shapes at the bottom, a triangle, a square, and three in a row. That's your goal, is to have your pieces form those shapes on the board, moving one at a time. And once someone occupies a spot on the board, no one else can occupy it.
Mm.
Then when the board is filled, you count up the value of the shapes that each player has made. And that determines the winner.
And what happens to the winner? How does the winner feel?
That depends on the winner's ontology. How
Oh,
important it is to win, or how much fun they had in winning, or how challenging their opponent was.
and how do the losers feel?
Well,
Yes.
that also depends on their. I've watched games where grandparents are playing with grandchildren. It's obvious that grandparents are letting the children win.
Really?
And when they see the joy in the grandchild's eyes or the expression on their face, they feel great for losing. But it
Oh,
all
good.
depends.
Sharing
Every
the love.
situation is different.
And that would that be love? Back
I
to
don't know.
the Dominic's message. Would that be love if the grandparent allows the child to win?
Maybe, or maybe it would be spoiling them. Maybe it would be
Oh,
maybe it would be an
then,
unkindness.
oh yes, because then they'll be too overconfident and maybe don't want to improve their Vinci skill set or something like that. They will
You
never
know,
go on
can't
to become
always tell.
Vinci champions to defeat the sumo Vinci players of Hawaii.
Wow, I'd love to find out how to reach those three sumo players in Hawaii. That that would be awesome.
Maybe Don has connections in Hawaii that
Oh, I
could
don't know.
lead to there to
I
find
don't
them.
know. I don't know those boys, but I can. I don't personally know those boys, but I can. At least I'll put a link to the song that I love. I'll put that in our chat. So give me a moment.
Okay, please do.
And then for next week, we'll have to have memorized the song so that we can sing it together. And
But
then
we have to go out and buy a ukulele first.
I got one, and then I will publish it. I will trim it to that when we sing and publish it all over YouTube land, and that will attract the sumo wrestlers to our join our meeting, and then they will be able to contact Joel, and they will make an appointment to be the first sumo wrestlers from Hawaii to play Vinci. That would be a historic moment.
Yeah, they'd be the first sumo wrestlers of any kind to play Vinci that I know of.
And then on their social media, they will mention the game Vinci, and then it will generate the question, wait, what is Vinci? A game? How do you play that game? And then it'll spread like wildfire, and Vinci will become the most popular game in a long time.
Well, maybe, but I wouldn't jump that far ahead that quickly.
Okay.
but I've posted a Vinci board on the chat.
Oh, look at that. It's a pretty diagram, like two squares joined by a corner. It's like 3 by 3. That's where you place it. And let's see. Let's see if she oh. I'm going back. Joel posted, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude.
On my MacBook Air is the best app I've used all year. Play my Mac X. And even if they
not irritable or resentful, it does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Wow. So if I meet all those criteria, then I will have mastered love or have a moment of love in me. May you all be have moments of love where it just spontaneously comes out of you and spreads all over the world to all sentient beings, to all my kind mothers.
You sound like Osho now. Sorry, Jaro. You sound like Osho.
Osho.
Hey, I appear here. I wonder if that's how Buddha and Jesus would talk. Would they put up their arms and give kumbaya to the human race?
Yes, kumbaya in the Aramaic language. Let's see. Maybe. Oh, I have a book. So, oh, I wish I could find the books.
Well, he wouldn't be saying it. Sorry, Jaro. He wouldn't be saying it if it was written down.
Oh, I guess I have to memorize my books. But I have a book that has the Our Father who art in heaven, but all in Aramaic, and so it sounds like Hebrew and it sounds Arabic.
It sounds nice, but who's the Father?
Phonetically, I could read it, and maybe it's on Google.
Jaro, I get what you're saying, but if you listen to what you're saying, who's your father? The Pope actually means father. So who's our father?
Oh, but in this case,
who's our father? No, I'm asking a question. I'm just saying that
it interprets our Father as in our cosmos, our universe.
Are you sure? Are you sure that most people perceive it that way? I'm asking, Jaro, because I'm asking you. I'm asking you as another human being.
Mother Nature.
Okay, Mother Nature, but she's not in heaven.
Oh.
Mother Nature's Earth.
Oh, what does it mean? Okay. Maybe you could interpret that as our universe, who art in the spirit, in good versus evil. Evil is material, so spirit is good. So our Father.
That's how I perceive it, Jaro. That's how I perceive it. But how do you perceive it? Remember, a lot of things that you're regurgitating. This is how we have belief systems. I've shared you my view. I'm not asking you to follow me. So how do you, when you hear that word, our Father, who are we talking about? It's a question. I know for myself who I'm talking about, but do you know who you're talking about? Or are you just parroting another phrase? There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not trying to insult a parrot.
I'm parroting the Dominic perspective.
No, you're never. No, you're just repeating what I'm saying. But don't worry about who I am. This is about learning about the self. It was never about knowing others. It's about knowing the self. The self is parroting something. Yeah, right here. It's an inquiry. I'm just sharing out loud. This is not debatable in my world. I'm just sharing out loud. Now, people can debate on it if they want. They can say, Dominic, I don't agree with you. That's nice. But that would be under the premise that you ask me if I value the concept of agreeing or disagreeing. So in this case, you're about to say a phrase, our Father, and I'm just nitpicking a word right now. Who's the Father?
The Father, the observer.
Could be.
The mind.
It could be. They're like me and you having a big math equation. We'd be nitpicking to understand the equation itself and some of its parts.
No.
This is about using your rational mind. And most people do not do that. They actually don't think. They actually, what they do is they parrot things. No offense to a poor parrot, but a parrot actually does parrot things.
Mm,
So
I'm
in this
just a
case,
parrot.
Mhm.
How can I become unparroting?
No, it's not about being parroting. You just
How
become
can
aware.
I generate original thoughts? All my thoughts are not original.
Same with me, Jaro. You're in the same boat as me. Everything I just say with my language, I'm parroting myself too. It's just that, do we have it in the program to question the program? Not to say there's an answer, but do we have it that we can question it? Try to go to Dalai Lama and say, I'm going to question you, or I'm going to question what you value or believe. No different than going to a monk or a priest or to a president. You go talk to Donald Trump. Okay, he's not president right now, but he never was president when he was president. But if you ask him questions, so what value do you bring to humanity?
Hmm.
This goes back to the theme about, we say the word love, but do we really question it? Or is it just caught up in our feelings? Well, it makes me feel good. Okay, do you question feelings too?
Mhm. Maybe I should paint my shack green.
Sweet.
That's going to be hard to do. I have to remove all the books from the bookshelves and paint green everywhere. Yeah, that way, when I take video, I can digitally replace the green background into something else. Then I could show that I'm in the Himalayan mountains in the background or something, like Joel does with his screen. I guess he's using a green screen, and then he can put his Vinci game in the background. Or is that automatically? I guess you select on Zoom the picture you want. I can do that.
Yeah, just select on Zoom. I used to have a green screen, but then Zoom changed, upgraded so that I didn't have to do that, but I still have the green screen hanging.
Mm,
Oh, let me try that. Let's see. I'll get an image and I'll
yeah.
put. Oh yes, look, I got a green Tara. Yeah, that's a Buddhist deity. And then when you're in a desperate situation, you just chant her name, her mantra. Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha. And now you have the protection from the Savior Tara.
Mm.
Just call out my name
And
and
I'll be there.
guys,
right.
it's getting around that time where I have
Sure.
other Zoom meetings. Dawn, it was really nice to meet you and
Oh,
Evie.
yeah.
If you want any more Zoom groups to go to, I know of a lot of groups that would love to have you. There's a Socrates Cafe in Denver. That's 8:30 in the evenings of Eastern Standard Time.
Wow.
So if you ever want to do that, just go on Meetup and look for Socrates Cafe in Denver. The guys there would love to have you, I'm sure. And there's a
Okay.
few more. And anyway, everybody stay safe. And
It's always a pleasure, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for allowing me to visit. I love it, and I would love to come back. Thank you.
Please do.
thanks
Thank
for
you.
teaching me about the Hawaiian sumos. I'm
Oh,
very,
absolutely.
very happy to hear about that.
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing. Share with me. Please message me on the, I guess the meetup chat is how we can connect with each other. And I
sure.
can't wait to see you all again.
Okay.
Okay, I'll look for you there.
All right.
Don, I'll send you my email on the meetup chat if you want to keep in touch. I'm looking for people to play Vinci via email.
Okay. I'd love to learn. Yes, please.
I've just discovered a new way that we can play. So you keep in touch with people just periodically. You make maybe one move a day or every second or third day, depending on what your schedule and your interest is, and kind of just keep contact. I wish Mike was here because I'd love to have him play. It's kind of an unobtrusive way to make sure everybody is, if you ping them, then they pong you back. So, they're still out there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye, Joel.
Oh.
All right. That's great. I feel so good. This is, to be honest, this is my first experience in a group having these kinds of discussions. So free and open. It feels so good. And wow, it's great.
Mm. And I learned so much from you
I learned
about
from
you.
you guys. Thank you. I've been learning from you guys, and I appreciate you being open to hear about me. And I'd love to hear about you guys individually as well.
I'm just a parrot.
No,
Oh,
I'm just saying, Joey, Jara, you're parroting something. I don't value the concept.
Maybe I
Go ahead.
parrot in a particular style.
We all do in our own way. We all do.
The presentation.
Well, you brought in something that's allowed to be questioned. When somebody brings in some sort of teaching, we should be able to question that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's when person makes it personal when they forget those words don't belong to you. They never will belong to you.
Mm.
So when somebody talks about Socrates supposedly quoted, I don't know nothing, I'm allowed to question that idea. I'm not questioning him. First of all, he's probably dead, and who knows if he's been rebooted. That's of no concern to me. It's the teachings that I'm allowed to question. And you've never been with me, Don, before. I question things, reason, feelings, emotions. Anything that we speak or talk about or feelings, that's emotion, energy in motion.
And then when you question it, where do you find the answers?
I keep quiet, then I go in a state of peace, and then I listen, I meditate.
Mm.
I'm always listening.
Mm.
Now, what I'm doing with you guys, I'm hearing you guys. You know, sometimes when somebody hears something and they feel propelled to say something, depends if they're, if, you know, I don't know if Donna practiced chakras and all that. Your chakras might be closed in certain areas. So a person that has their throat chakra open, they can communicate. Where other people, they're probably, maybe their ears are open more than their throats are open.
Mm.
Now, I'm okay, Donna, you've never heard me say it today, but I could be full of shit, and I'm okay with that. Because each individual being are on their own journey. And how I say that, it's a simple observation. Have we ever been outside of the vessel? When you look across a room, are you there, you're here. When you're in the shower, you're there or you're here. Just because people do some sexual act, you're not in that person. The body might be within the body. So who are we then? It's a question, not because I have the answer. And even if I did, that would be from my own understanding.
Mm.
So when you said our Father, who are we talking about? The one that was in the garden east of Eden? When the serpent talked to Eve and said, did God say so? Listen to the question. The serpent asked Eve quite clearly, did God say so? And I'm basing on some written work. So now, like I said, when people say, well, Dominic, I got that information from YouTube. Who's to say that's the truth? I don't know. But you can question from within. You know, the Buddha, who was the Buddha? We're in the Buddha form. Can we be Christ, the anointed one? Well, if everybody else is asleep, then I think by default, then I become anointed. But then the way I use it, Donna, and I'll share this out loud, we're all in the crazy house. Do we choose to take our pills or not?
Mm.
And you can have enjoyment. You've traveled quite a few places. You enjoy where you're going, you know, but that's each their own. You know, I go with the concept we should start burning all the books so we can have Kindle. And then at least the trees could say, listen, okay, so you're gonna digify everything now, right? Like I said, if other parts of the world could speak to us in our language, which is the trees, the insects, and all that, I think a lot of people would have a tough time hearing them. Because they would say, you've been pretty cruel to us. And sometimes cruelty doesn't come in a form that you're actually being harmful to the person. You could literally just be neglectful. And most of us as beings are neglectful to each other. You know, Donna's getting an opportunity to actually have probably an engaging conversation, where more times than not, it's a humdrum, okay, I'm playing with numbers or I'm talking to my parents, but they're not having a meaningful conversation with them. That would imply that they're actually meaningful with themselves first.
absolutely, Dom. And it's something that I feel like years ago I awoke to the realization that there wasn't substance in my interactions with people.
Mhm.
And when I attempted to have meaningful conversations with people, I noticed that in many instances, anger came up in them. Uh,
Mm.
and when I tried to ask why and what's happening to you, digging deeper, trying to have an understanding, it just created more frustration for them. And then,
Did you hear the
yeah,
word? Sorry, Jarl. Did you hear the word frustration? Because what happens is most people, and Donna tapped into it, they don't want to be disenchanted.
Oh,
They don't want to be.
You
They'll
think-
follow the Buddha, the ideal of Buddha. They'll follow the Jesus. I've told you, Jaro, before, even with Rami, you probably don't want to hear it. I said, would you give up your worldly possessions to follow those characters?
no.
And I would say the same thing. The only difference is, at least I'm aware of the game.
Yeah.
It's the metaphor I used, sorry, Donna, for cutting you off, where the metaphor was, if there's a mafia leader in my community, I should at least know the game that he's playing. Privately, I might turn around and say he's an asshole, but publicly, I'm going to keep quiet.
Right.
So now with most people, what they do is, and this is why I have a tough time with the human race sometimes, because I'm included in it, I know I'm my own hypocrite, where they say, well, they're taking my rights away. How are they taking your rights away? Well, they don't allow me to fly a plane. That's not a right, that's a privilege. The train, that's a privilege.
If you want to use, the way I view it is, it's their stuff. It's theirs. It's a part of the system. If you want to use it, you got to pay. You got to follow their
Sure you do.
rules.
Sure.
Why are you saying like it's supposed to be and they must let you? No, you don't have to use that. You can drive your car. And if you can't get there by your car, you don't have to go. But if you want to use their stuff, you got to follow their rules. And
Please.
that's the way it's come to me.
But the
It's
sad
not
thing is, a
fair.
lot of people don't learn. Forget about, Jaro,
I
forget about
don't
fairness.
like rules.
But the thing is, most people are born into it. And this is where I tell all parents fail their kids in some way or another. So in this case, to understand the rules is probably more important than following the rules. So for most people, what they do is they're spoiled little twits, and that's everybody. It's like when somebody tells me, and my friend's Jamaican, he said, no, but us black people said, who the fuck told you you're black? What do you mean? You're not black and you'll never fucking be black. You're dark skinned. Now, the people that use the word N, they don't understand what that means too. That was when two different genders, colored genders, interbreeded together. And that's what they call those poor beings. So now when most people, they say, listen, you better understand the rules. To understand the rules is realizing, oh, so I didn't create the rules. Yeah, you didn't create the rules. But do you want to take your chance on being interdependent with nature? No. So then be interdependent here. Realize I don't make my own clothes. I don't drive my own car. I tell my friends all the time, John, I say this jokingly because a lot of them, they're still children in my eyes. And so am my child because I'm talked the way I talk. I said, next time you drive in somebody else's car, fueling with somebody else's fuel, go to somebody else's grocery store, use somebody else's money, tell me whose bitch you're not. And that's for me to share with them. I said, you're not ready to be the student yet. This is why, Jaro, I told you, are you teachable yet? I'm not your teacher. Are you teachable? I'm in the playground with you guys right now. I'm having fun. Now, somebody said, but you're upset. I said, I'm allowed to be any emotion I want to be. I tell my buddies all the time, I said, you went to anger management. Did you go to sadness management? Did you go to joy management? No. So then why
I'm
would you?
going to love management. I just have too much problems with love. I love everyone. So I have to rein that in. Maybe that's causing me compassion fatigue. I'm trying to do this for that person, that for that person. I'm going crazy. And I am having a hard time multitasking.
Okay, but Jaro, what happens if you find out?
Forget what I had to do with that person. That person calls me and said, well, did you get that done?
Okay, but Jaro, what happened if you find out you weren't designed to be compassion, but you were designed to be a clairvoyant or a sociopath or a psychopath? This is where people don't understand. The narcissist, psychopath, and sociopath, who are the kind of people that hang out with those kind of people? How developed are they? They're not even close. A person that spends too much time in the gym is a narcissist. Too much people putting on makeup is a narcissist. So in this particular case, what would you do if you found out you weren't designed to be empathetic for other people, opposed to just being clairvoyant?
I'm empathetic. Pathetic.
Are you? Are
That's
you? Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Word.
Well, we're all pathetic to a certain
Empathy.
point.
And pathetic.
I say that jokingly because I really don't know how everybody else lives. I can
I'm
only
on a
talk for
path.
myself. What's that, sorry,
I'm
John?
on a path to empathy. No, I'm on a path to being pathetic.
Okay, so Jaro, here's an example. Okay,
Word.
Jaro, I'll give you a simple example. Most people fear things that they never experience. In this case, most people, just because their parents move on, their loved ones move on, they don't experience death. What they do can become aware of is suffering, pain. So now when a person says, well, Dominic, I lost my father, I said, you didn't die. You just learned the 101 on attachments. They're not, when Dawn probably already is or attached to her dog, Evie loves her dearly. But I'm pretty sure when she's sick, she'll discover she's attached. That's human, one of the human parts of us. Other people can say, just replace the poor creature. That's how they respond. Who am I to say it's right or wrong?
Well, definitely I have an attachment to being a mother
Yes, you do.
because I have two children that are adults, and I have now 3 grandchildren. My children, my two adult girls, who are very much like me, don't talk to me. I've always been a different person. But for some people, they want conformity, which is so shocking because I did not raise these girls in an environment of conformity, save for the programmed conformity that I already had within me. But as they have grown up with me, they've noticed more of a loosening, less conformity, more desire to understand how this world works, more just being that has come out of me naturally. And these children, that you're not, you don't do it right. You're not being like a mom. And, so they have in their mind these concepts. They don't talk to me. And I'm pretty sure they don't even really know why they don't talk to me. But it's not something that I have necessarily done to them, but that's what they believe. So I've accepted that. I don't race after them. At one point I was, please, let's work it out. Why can't you talk to me? But I realized that I actually did this as well. At 17 years old, I disconnected from my family. I went on my own. I raised myself from that point. And I've been very independent, and I taught them independence. So I view them in a way that I'm very proud of them. And the attachment of mother, that word is so strong. That attachment has been loosening. Fear has been in me over the last couple of years. Fear of what? Fear of, oh my gosh, I'm not being a mother. I'm supposed to be attached to them. I'm supposed to do all these things. But I don't feel that anymore. I no longer feel that that is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I hear other mothers saying, oh, you should be contacting them, remind them that you love them and chase after them. And you're not being a good mother if you don't. Well, I no longer want to have that. I don't want to be that.
You know something, Don, I could share something with you if you ever want to have a private conversation with your daughters. Say, ladies, do you go around pleasing men and other women to wear thongs on the beach? Well, why would I do that? I said, bingo. You see the conditioning. So then you're stereotyping me as a mother. Even though I heard you, Don, too, there's some words that you say that I don't think you truly challenge, in the sense that, did you really raise yourself? Are you really independent? Look at the house that you have. Did you build it? The clothes that you have, did you build it? This is kind of the metaphor. I'll use the example of a guy like Michael Jordan or Muhammad Ali. People have the ideal that they're so independent. I said, did they create the sport? No. Did they create their opponent? No. Did they create themselves? No. So then what are they then? That's the ego pretending that it forgets its place. So in this particular case, we're not independent. The best we can ever be is interdependent. Now, you did your role as a mother. You probably raised them. A lot of women haven't been taught or forgot that you should wean your child for the first 7 years. You should probably nurture it when it's in the womb. Now, that's not your responsibility only. It's a responsibility of a community. We no longer have our ancestors living with us or in a community. So what ends up happening now, we're all living like puppy mills. So now a child could turn around and say, okay, well, honey, if you don't think I'm doing a good enough job as a mother, then why don't you be the example? go get yourself pregnant and have a child. But remember, and I'm a big advocate for this kind of stuff, women are always single mothers. They're the ones that are actually raising the child when they're pregnant, not a man. I'm a man. I asked my wife one time, I said, Jude, I've got a quick question for you. Is taking a big crap like having a baby? You're lucky, Dom. Why? Because you're talking to a person that did both, not even close. Now, am I compassionate or am I clairvoyant? Why? I asked a question, but I was willing to hear what was going to be responded. And when it came to me, it resonated with me. Dom, you're playing a game here. Where a lot of men think, well, we're helping each other. No, you're not. We live in a world where athletes get paid so much money. Well, why don't we pay our farmers the same amount? Or a doctor and lawyer. Is humanity excelling when we have more doctors and lawyers? No, it just means that we're getting sicker and we don't know how to handle our own affairs. And until people become aware of that, forget about solving the problem. I'd be all for if the world wanted, all the human race wanted to be collective and have a major war. At least we get it out of the way. But we've never been collective. We spend too much time on our color of our skin, our genders, and now they're playing other games where if you want to be gay, that's fine. Keep it private. I don't want to hear about it publicly. I don't want to hear about what you do with your wife publicly. You know, keep that private. We forgot what shame is. Anyway, sorry, Jar, I see your hands. You know, you can always jump in.
That's wonderful to hear, Dominic, and how his voice, his stream of consciousness is so amazing to how it interconnects everything.
Now you're feeding my ego. Now you're feeding my ego.
And how I feed his ego.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Oh, look at, you're amazing. Oh, wow. We need another amazing person. Oh, I don't need another person. But thank you. I get what you're trying to say and all that kind of stuff. But we all have that ability. I'm not saying the exact same way.
It says, wow, that's a good idea. Wow. Never thought of it that way. Wow. And so Dominic is expanding my awareness so that I become enlightened, so that I awaken, so that I wake up and think clearly.
Honestly, you think you're going to think clearly? I hope you think. I don't know, but clearly.
I think. So, well, that's a good question. Do I think? I think.
Or you're reacting?
Do I think clearly? And what is it to think unclearly, think foggily, or think incorrectly? This for next Saturday.
I think we have our own belief or understanding of words, and we use the not this, not that, or it is this and not that in our minds, trying to have clarity, trying to have understanding. And I believe that process is all natural, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I love this exchange of thinking and talking about it and allowing this exchange. And it's my opinion that if we had more of this, it would allow for more collectiveness within our global consciousness. But we get distracted. We allow the players in the system to distract us because they want us to, oh yeah, pay attention to these sports and divide yourselves, and then you're fighting because my team is better than your team, and that's where the money is generated, and that's how they what is the greatest of all times is because they're generating this attention, this energy, this focus, which then generates money. And I feel like if people understood what their attention is actually bringing to the world, then they would make a different choice. But we can't make different choices if our scope or understanding or influences are limited. So this broad exchanges is wonderful for me, and I'd like to have more of these in our communities.
I've always encouraged people to share freely if they want to. The thing about the whole concept of repentance means to change. If people understood what money brings to them, in this case, their comforts, they're not really going to pursue, let alone could they actually say, well, then I have to study them where the sun and the moon has to be to grow my crops. most people, it's kind of like, I've heard people talk about enslavement. Can you truly be free if you're speaking another nation's language? No, you can't. So this is where awareness is a start. It might take many lifespans for a person. Forget about the whole concept. I've heard you say that before, where most of these clubs are looking for initiates. They're not looking for students. Why? Because most of them aren't even students themselves. Now, a guy that goes around and said, Dominic, but I'm a teacher. I said, well, then who taught you how to breathe? It wasn't your parents, wasn't your wife, it wasn't you. So if you're not aware of that, so then what the heck are you teaching me then? You're teaching me nothing, no things. But what is the essence to things? This is why there's many clubs, and 33 Degrees is a very small club. But people will join clubs because they want to feel accepted. And then within themselves, they go in there thinking, but then I'm going to rule. Rule what? If I knew all the different demigods in this world and what they had to do, I would want nothing to do with it. I'd rather just do my part. I want my comforts. I'd rather just be in one human form, live in one lifespan. I might have a couple of offsprings, and even that, are they my ancestors? So this where I get where you're coming from, Don, but most people, I hate this, it's sad as it may sound, because it sounds like it's not a blanket statement, but it's a very tough generalization. I went through shit when I became aware. And I still go through it. And for me to share with other people, even as I'm sharing with now, what am I sharing with them? Well, Dominic, how can we do this in the physical? You know, it takes a lot of energy to feel something, and fiat currency is fueled by that energy. Same with working or thoughts. If a person keeps talking about Hitler, you're giving energy, but they're giving energy to the ideal of Hitler. They're not them really understand what he stood for and how he came to be. Well, then he's nothing then, bingo. People have this idea that Jesus is here to save them. I'm like, okay, that's nice. From what? And only you? That's just revealing the ego. You know, I get it. We're having these conversations. I like that, even though it's a platform that it's not really private, but I value quantity over quality over quantity. And most people say, well, I have 1 million people watching my YouTube. I said, that's, you know, that's AI generated, right? And they can make up whatever numbers they want, right? People can't grasp how intellectual or how the potential of us actually becomes, if not more aware than, or take more information than Siri could ever take in. But we don't do that. We've been so divided. Well, we're going to teach you that you can't teach your kids how to read or write. That's how you brought in writing then. Resist what they don't want or what they need. And the next thing you know, they want it. Want just means lack. They're not somebody, you know, something would be like me and you, Don, going to a bunch of Christians, pick a denomination, and then try to explain to them. For them, forget about us attacking them. For them to try to explain themselves, they wouldn't. Well, follow Jesus. No, I'm hearing the name. What's the teachings? And then they'll start giving you parables. I said, what does it mean to you? Love thy neighbor. What does that mean? And then they'll think it's an external thing. No, love thy neighbor is yourself. You're not out there. You're inside. Know thyself. That's about the self, the program. The self, the way I describe it is this. You have an app. And all those apps, that's the ego. Then you have a hard drive. That's the other source, the one that's fueling your body the whole time when you fast or whatever. And then you have electricity and Wi-Fi going to it. Where are those energies? I don't know. But I'm aware that they do exist. Now, I might be playing a mind game by saying I'm saying the words. But then again, I'm a student. You know, we don't have the way it is in the human form where you have 30 students and one teacher. The one that's teaching is the student. But in the other realm, when you're ready, you'll be the student, and then there's thousands of teachers. And when you're ready to hear them, they'll convey within you. Hence, you'll say things, you know, it resonates with me. Or you get that intuitive part. Women, because they're childbearing, a lot of the receivers near their gut, and they say, it tells me not to go down that alley today. And another time, you'll go down that same alley. Why? Because there's a homeless person needs foods. So there is no right or wrong. It's just, is it productive for you at that point? Will I show myself as a servant? You know, even the people that join these clubs, they are being servants. Just most of them aren't aware what they're serving. That's why I said to you, Jairo, who's the father?
That's what we'll talk about next week.
I hope so.
Next Saturday, we'll the topic will be, who's the father? No, or something like that. Well,
What
we
about the
could
mother?
look
What about
at
the
it,
mother?
look at it as, how does this system work? Like, for
Ooh,
example, Facebook, and how the CDC, well, Facebook, they opened up the Facebook conversations between the CDC and Facebook people that were trying to, in last year or two ago, trying to decide, oh, these kinds of messages, they might lead people to not want to get vaccinated. So what should we do, CDC? And say, what do you think, CDC? Yes, that looks like it could get people to not want to get vaccinated. So I think you should kind of suppress those kind of. So,
So
so
John,
I think we should call the next session "Who's Your Daddy?" just to be
who's
fun.
the
who's
daddy?
your
Who's
daddy?
your daddy?
Sugar daddy Don, or just daddy?
This daddy is good.
Okay, but why don't they ever
Your
say?
daddy might be sugar, but mine might be salt.
Okay, I get it when
Who's my
women are saying that.
mommy?
Okay, yeah, who's my mommy? But back to what you're saying, Jaro. Who's to say when we say the word pandemic, that's just Greek for all people. Okay, most people don't understand what a virus is or isn't. So they don't realize, they've said it openly. This is a worldwide reset. It's a 10-year project. We're in year 3. Now,
Whoa.
people don't understand how credit system works. They don't understand how digital currency works. They don't realize in 2005, America's currency was worth 9 cents to the dollar, so it already went bankrupt. So now you're playing with borrowed money. America's $300 trillion in the hole if you factor in pensioners. So now if you understand how the fiat currency works, you'll realize how the reset works. And how they done it is, we're going to have a reset. We're just going to see how many people are stupid enough to wear a mask, how many people don't realize for commercial reasons, you got to have a vaccine for what? Is my immune system healthy as it is? Now, not to take it away, vaccines do help certain types of blood types. But most vaccines, last time I remember, is they test on healthy people, not sick people. So now, the game that we're playing is a game to see whether or not who's still wise, because the rest of you hate to offend a poor creature, but you're acting like sheeps.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait for the next session. I've got to get going now.
Shout out.
But I wish we could do this all day. If we weren't
Yes.
in these bodies,
I
that
gotta
have to
get
take a break.
going too. Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to go to work, because I left a paycheck that I have to turn in to the lady that takes care of my mother. She gets paid
Oh,
by
I
the-
would love to see your mother. I think it's awesome that you have a mom that's 100 years old.
She's a
Oh,
beauty.
so next week I'll sleep overnight, Friday night, at my mother's place, and we'll start this meeting at my mother's place and wake her up and get her day going. Take her to the bathroom.
Mean. She might spank you on camera. That'll be awesome.
That'll be kinky. Elder lady spanking her younger son. I love it.
Well,
Oh,
then it'll go
who's
from
my
who's your
mama?
daddy to who's your mama.
Here's my mama,
Done.
and she's 100 years old.
Jara, have a beautiful day, both of you, okay?
All right,
You
guys.
too. Thank
Bye.
you, Dominic. Thank you,
Yeah.
Don. See you next time.
Ciao,
All right,
guys.
Have a good